I haven't seen the numbers for the past years, but it's probably the same that we probably gave up more than anybody else in that category. We just outslugged you, so it wasn't a glaring weakness. But right now it is.
That's a really great call. Thank you. And the 0-2-1-2 giving in to people. Now, I'll say this for the weekend. I was glad to see him Phillips on the mound. Got 0-2-1-2 and a couple guys and wasted a few pitches, which was nice to see. That's interesting. Let's go back to our phones, get our next call in on TLD Logistics phone line on a day where we're getting ready to see who Tennessee has. The NCAA's latest reveal, Rusty says, how about Vanderbilt? Brian called it the overall number 1 seed in the tournament. Congratulations to them. That's doing more with less. And then the job that Auburn has done with their ball club this year, and Matt Dixon's right, they let the catchers call their games, which is kind of interesting. It's the opposite of joystick coaching. Hello and welcome into our next call. You're on the air.
Hey, y'all, it's William.
Hey, William, welcome in.
May I just say congrats to Vanderbilt for getting the number 1 seed. Congrats.
Yep, no doubt about it, man.
I might hate them, but for once I actually feel good for them.
You found TonyBasilio.com, home of the Tony Basilio Show. In just a few minutes, we'll be right with you with another award-winning, action-packed edition of your Tony Basilio Show. You found Radio Free Tennessee. Your Tony Basilio Show will begin momentarily. Keep it locked in right here at TonyBasilio.com and on your Tony Basilio app. And hey, do us a favor. Spread the word.
WJBE 1040 AM, 99.7 FM. Translator W259AB. Powell, Knoxville.
Coming correct for you on a Tuesday as we welcome you in. Brian Hartman, do I see rain in the forecast for Friday? I mean, is that kind of like, I don't know, apropos, bruh?
Well, that's one other reason why some folks wanted to play on the road is because it just has to rain every week.
Every week.
It just doesn't stop every weekend.
Every week.
And it's cloudy right now, and it's been off and on rain for about, I don't know, the past month.
So C called me yesterday, okay? I'm sitting in the park kind of playing some music, just sort of relaxing out there with Laura. And C's not real familiar with college baseball. You know, he loves his football. He loves his basketball. But he was really confused. He said, why in the NCAA tournament baseball? And I want to get Dixon in here because Brian wrote a great column today over at tclub.team, the outset of this thing. But this event is truly anybody's, and it's really confusing. He said, why would they take, at one point, the two odds-on favorites to win the national championship, Bri, and put them together in the same region so that only one of them would get to the Elite Eight? And, you know, it's an interesting point because Matt was talking yesterday about how the way they seed these teams is so different than the basketball deal. And there's geographical constraints. There's league considerations. There's all these other things. It's really a weird sport, Brian, when you think about it, isn't it?
I think those numbers and those odds came out after the bracket was unveiled.
Well, I'm looking at like VIP play, okay, and I'm looking at the odds to win the Natty. Not to be confused with the Natty that are coming in here, but the Natty. The real Natty, not the EWAD Natty, where they put chili on their sketty. But the Natty. Arkansas is plus 400. LSU is plus 500. Vanderbilt's plus 700. Georgia's plus 1,000. North Carolina, plus 1,000. Tennessee plus 1,000. Bri, that Texas team that was number one all year is plus 1,500. And Auburn, who's way up there at the top, is plus 2,500. Which, and C's point is, how can you have like a top 4 seed like Auburn and then be a plus 2,500? He goes, what is that? I mean, isn't it kind of an interesting point, right, Bri?
It is, and it kind of shows you the power of the SEC and the fact that I think Tennessee, being the defending national champion, might have bumped them up higher than maybe they should have been, and they deserved. I don't think that's good value betting on the Vols to win it all this year with this team, but I just think there's something about the Tennessee brand right now. They've been the best program in the sport since COVID, as Matt likes to say, and they are the defending national champion, so that has to be worth something.
It would be a Phrygian millionaire. It would be a Phrygian. You'd have to be a Phrygian millionaire to bet on Tennessee to win a national championship this year. I mean, that's throwing money away. Let alone them being way on up there. I mean,
the return wouldn't be as good as you would want.
I think it'd be an accomplishment, Brian, if they got out of this region. Winning a national championship? I mean, I'm on. Okay, now that you've seen the draw, I'm going to ask the question I asked yesterday, and then we got a guest coming up. We're going to download your Cincinnati Bearcats here coming up. And we have a lot of other stuff to talk about. Brian overlooked the USC when writing about the Big Ten. Brian, do you like that? Do you like how, like Matt was saying this yesterday, you try to figure out what teams are in what league, and USC is a freaking Big Ten team, Brian. By the way, anybody that makes mistakes like that is, as far as I'm concerned, you're absolved. Because it's impossible, even a guy like you, it's impossible for us to keep up with this stuff.
Yeah, they're in the Oregon State Regional, and being from the old Pac-12, you couldn't have two teams in the same conference in the same regional, but now you can put those teams together. And USC's program has been kind of not as good recently. It's been great in years past, but not recently. So I definitely overlooked a USC team that I kind of thought there were only 3 Big Ten teams, but none of the original Big Ten teams made it. Indiana didn't make it. Illinois didn't make it this year. Indiana came to Knoxville last year. They didn't make it. So if you're an original Big Ten team, no dice, no soup for you. And just Nebraska, they had to steal a bid. And then you have the 3 West Coast Big Ten teams who I guess the travel didn't bother them as much, all the cross-country extra travel, because Oregon and UCLA are still top 16 national seeds.
Great, great, great brand names in college baseball, Oregon and UCLA. Tim Adams of Bearcat Journal is going to join us. Bri, the Lady Vols and the men have uncannily similar paths pointed out to the living listener. And I want to encourage you to go over to tclub.team today, because Bri does one factoid after another after seeing the draw yesterday. And it's stuff you could kind of impress your friends with, because it's really a strange sporting event.
Well, both softball and baseball had to play Miami of Ohio, their first tournament game, at home. And then the 2 other teams that came to their regional, the softball team had Ohio State, North Carolina, and then the baseball team has Cincinnati and Wake Forest, both from the state of Ohio and from the state of North Carolina, Wake Forest and UNC being from the same league.
That's wild, Bri.
And I guess sort of the softball team had to deal with Nebraska and LSU, and then baseball would have to possibly deal with Arkansas.
That's wild, Bri.
Same region of the same sort of part of the country.
That's wild, Bri. And that is wild, Bri. So we have a lot to talk about. Tim Adams, Bearcat Journal, joins, and then Connor O'Neill with Deacon Illustrated. Deacon Jones Illustrated. And then we'll get some calls in. I want to ask you, though, now that you've seen the draw, what's more likely? This team goes home with a case of rice-a-roni, getting beat in their building once again this year. It looks like with some inclement weather around us. Or this team goes to Arkansas and makes the backs gag it up. I don't think it's a guarantee Arkansas wins this weekend. Brian, Arkansas didn't look all that great to me a couple weeks ago. We were scuffling and we went in there. I guess the 2 teams combined were 2 of 9 in their last 9 series.
Yeah, they lost 9 of 11 series between them, I think, when they faced off at Fayetteville or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
And Arkansas went one and done in Hoover, I believe.
I don't think they're very good. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sure they're great, and I'm sure it's a tough place to play. I'm sure our boy Chef, not Chef, is, in there to win it, and this, that, and the other. Where's Dixon, man? Where is Dixon? Any idea? He's
probably trying to make sure he's got his seat for Friday night and Saturday and Sunday.
Dixon fighting for his right to party in Lindsey Nelson Stadium. As we come back on the other side, we'll get the lowdown on the Bear. Should we get Eric Waddell to sit on? Eric didn't sound like he follows baseball, the Bearcat baseball, to me, Bri, yesterday. What'd you think of that? Should we get Ewad to sit in on this thing, or?
I think that might not be the worst idea I've heard.
Or you think he would kind of fanboy? Those of you that missed yesterday's program, we did work on Memorial Day. We also responded in real time to the draw. We, through the process of deductive reasoning, kind of figured out way before they put it up there who was coming in here, because they've got these goofy rules you have to follow. And the Jerry Palm, the bracketologist in college baseball, Bri, how did they do? Anybody get 100% score? Because that thing's impossible to try to seed properly. Did Jerry Palm get let go, Bri, by CBS?
He did.
Oh, man.
Or something happened there. He's no longer with them.
We need to reach out to him. Has he landed on his feet anywhere?
I actually have. I actually have, and hopefully he'll continue to be a regular with us as we go forward.
Shoot me his number, man. I want to get up with Jerry. I'm going to give him a call. Pick him up. I saw that. When did that happen? I saw somebody text me about that not too long ago. I was like, I must have missed that. That happened
right after the season. I think right after sometime in April, maybe.
That's why. I was buried in the middle of all that transfer portal stuff. When we continue, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we're going to get into downloading the Bearcats and the Demon Deacons. Bri, am I wrong to think that the Bearcats could beat the Demon Deacons in Game 1? They should come in here expecting to win.
I don't think when you put together two teams like that on the road that are sort of comparable, nothing surprises me. A 3 beating 2, that shouldn't surprise anybody anywhere.
And the thing about this Bearcat club is they put the ball in play and they love to run. The thing about Wake Forest is they walk everybody, and they're a worse fielding team than we are, if you can believe that.
Yeah, Wake Forest doesn't sound to me like they got a team that's going to go a long way. They missed their chance last year, and they went all the way to the World Series 2 years ago, but I think they're kind of slipping.
Sliding away. Come back on the other side, a little Paul Simon for you. We're going to continue on the other side at 865-200-54. Don't say slide. Tony will come over here and slide you. But it is a new season. We have a lot to talk about, very little time to get there. Go over to tclub.team. Check out Brian's stuff today. So basically, Tennessee's in the Lady Vols are walking a similar paths in the first round. Only Brian could come up with that. It's pretty insane, if you ask me, after this. Life never stops moving. And between the 30-minute commutes, daycare pickups, weekly soccer practice, Tuesday night yoga, X number of coffee runs, and that weekend trip to Grandma's, you're racking up the miles. What you need is a tire that can keep up. A tire designed for doers. A tire that's going to last. Like the exceptionally long-lasting Michelin Defender tire. With an 80,000-mile warranty and the safety and comfort you expect, you can forget all about the miles ahead and focus on getting to your destination or conquering your to-do list. Fleet Tire, I-275 exit 1B at East Woodland Avenue in Knoxville. That's Fleet Tire, I-275 exit 1B at East Woodland Avenue in Knoxville. Fleet Tire.
Why is it so stuffy in here? Don't tell me the AC's broken again. No matter the season, a broken air conditioner or HVAC system is a nightmare. And with warm weather here to stay, it's more important than ever to keep you and your family comfortable and safe before summer's heat arrives. If you need emergency HVAC repairs, routine preventative maintenance, or want to invest in a new system, then call the trusted HVAC experts at Pipe Wrench Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. This month, get up to a $1,000 discount when you buy and install a new air conditioner or HVAC system. We make it easy with free on-site estimates for replacements and free second opinions on repairs. And if budgets are tight, we offer flexible payment plans including 0% financing with credit approval. Be sure to ask about our 10-plus year warranties that are 2 times longer than industry standards, so you don't spend a cent on unexpected costs in the future. So call Pipe Wrench at 865-264-8090 or book online at pipewrench.com to schedule your appointment today. And as always, same-day service guaranteed or the visit is free.
Jeff Hall here. I'm a partner at Rather & Kittrell Capital Management. And here at Rather & Kittrell, we understand that life is full of transitions. Since 2000, our team of dedicated certified financial planners has been helping individuals, families, and businesses navigate these changes with confidence. From comprehensive wealth management to tailored retirement plans, we're committed to guiding you toward a secure financial future. Ready to take the next step? Visit rkcapital.com or call us at 865-218-8400 to start your journey today. Rather & Kittrell is a registered investment advisor.
Out-of-town law firms have been swarming into East Tennessee lately. From Memphis, Chattanooga, and Birmingham, they've stormed into the area. Wouldn't you rather do business with a local firm? You know, a true neighbor. Marcos Garza and the pros at the Garza Law Firm are just that. There are neighbors and friends that support local causes year-round. The Garza Law Firm works to serve you professionally on criminal matters, injuries and accident matters, and Social Security and disability filings. The Garza Law Firm is here for you at garzalaw.com. The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
Are you stuck in a dead-end job or ready for a new challenge? Do you feel like it's time to try a new career? Well, it's time to change lanes with TLD Logistics. My friends at TLD Logistics have some really exciting opportunities for you to learn a new skill. With a new 5-acre driving academy that's now under new leadership with all new course material. And the best part, it's absolutely free. What a great deal to set you on the road to higher pay. And TLD Logistics even offers weekly stipends to offset food and gas expenses. In 6 weeks' time, you could complete this course and be in compliance with FMCSA regulations. Then you're ready for the open road of opportunity. What are you waiting for? It's time to change lanes with TLD Logistics. Visit tldlogistics.com. That's tldlogistics.com. TLD Logistics.
A lime is not always just a lime. You see, some limes are lucky. For when a lime joins the salted rim of a crisp, refreshing Tres Dos Equis, that lime is no longer a mere lime, but a wedge of renowned Mexican limón. Muchas gracias, limón. And also, de nada. Enjoy Dos Equis responsibly. Copyright 2024 Dos Equis, imported by Cervezas Mexicanas, White Plains, New York.
Hi there, Basilio crew. Jennifer Morris here with Keller Williams Realty. If you're thinking about selling your home, I've got good news for you. The East Tennessee and Knoxville areas are projected to have another strong year. I'll be happy to talk with you about the latest and greatest info you need. So give me a call at 865-694-5904 or contact me at nextmovesmokymountains.com. Hope to hear from you soon, and go Vols.
Josh Collins at Collins Insurance Agency. At Collins Insurance, we strive to ensure our customers receive better coverage along with bigger savings. Our community is important to us. We want to provide exceptional service to our customers. Anybody can provide great rates, great coverage, but can you also get great service? And hey, don't just take my word for it.
What's up, everybody? Zakai Ziegler here. My family turns to Collins Insurance Agency for the best service, coverage, and price.
So don't just go online and get some random insurance. Experience the Collins Insurance difference.
Like he said, experience the Collins Insurance difference. CollinsInsuranceTN.com. CollinsInsuranceTN.com. And hey, their Mama Zizi approved. CollinsInsuranceTN.com. Thank you to Josh Collins and Zizi.
One more thing, Tony. Go Vols!
Preparing food for a big gathering can really take it out of you. That's why you need to call Calhoun's and check out their selection of party platters. Whether you're hosting a party for the big game, a reunion, or just an everyday gathering, a Calhoun's party platter is next level. Choose from Calhoun's always excellent chicken tenders, fly with Calhoun's wings, or boneless wings with a variety of dipping sauces, award-winning next-level melt-in-your-mouth barbecue ribs, or delicious spinach artichoke dip, or get one of each. Plus, if you're doing burgers or sandwiches, Calhoun's has lots of side dishes like spinach Maria, baked cinnamon apples, Smoky Mountain baked beans, or creamy coleslaw. Available in pints, quarts, and gallons. And to finish things off, pick up one of Calhoun's great desserts to go, including homemade cheesecake or key lime pie. Calhoun's, simply your go-to party headquarters. With 9 locations all over East Tennessee, you can order online and just pick it up. Calhoun's, one of the Copper Cellar family of restaurants, along with Chesapeake's, Copper Cellar, Corner 16, Cherokee Grill, and Smoky Mountain Brewery. Eat local, eat good. So, Tim Adams now joining us, and he's with Bearcat Journals. I welcome you back. It is a inclement Tuesday here in East Tennessee. What else is new? We got baseball to be played this week. Of course, it's going to rain on us because that's what it's done all baseball season. But I love me some postseason baseball. I was just reflecting with Tim as I bring him in on the TLD Logistics phone line. Tim, there's something about postseason baseball. It's a completely different sport. And for the Bearcats, as I welcome you in, it has been a long, long time since they've gotten an at-large berth into the tournament. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was 1974, and they had, back then, I think there was only 28 teams that got to go to the tournament, and they had committees that selected the teams. And Cincinnati, which the team was made up largely of Cincinnati players back then, got into the tournament, but it was a short-lived one. They lost to Southern Illinois, and I think Creighton knocked them out, so they didn't get to enjoy any winning, but they did get to make the tournament. And very few Cincinnati baseball fans remember that because many of them weren't alive back then.
Well, and Cincinnati's been such a great baseball town. Going back to the Crosley Field days, one of the great treats is going up to Cincinnati and walking through their museum. Their museum is such a great treat. That's such a great baseball place, Tim Adams. Folks love the sport there, don't they?
Oh, yeah, the Reds are a big deal here. They haven't done very well lately, but in my lifetime, I was there around in the 70s when they were 75 and 76. They won it. The World Series then in 90, they won it. And the fans here are a little disgruntled with the current ownership, but this has always been a baseball town, and it filters all the way down to the high school baseball. A lot of great baseball players have come from Cincinnati. Ken Griffey Jr. and Barry Larkin and Pete Rose. There's a lot of them, and it's a baseball town.
You know, I was telling you, one of my great memories is when the Phillies and Reds played in 1976, and I was a young kid at the time, but I remember in Catholic school, one of the nuns wheeled in. It was one of the afternoon game. I think the Phillies got swept, but one of those games was an afternoon game. They were all close games, but I was like, whoa, this is a big deal. One of the nuns wheeled like a television in, like a projector television deal, and we're sitting there watching some afternoon baseball. That was back in the days when the NLCS, the ALCS, one of them played right smack dab in the middle of the afternoon so everybody could see it. I mean, it was such a different era, wasn't it?
It absolutely was back then, and there was something really pure about it because it happened at a lot of schools, I think, where people watched the World Series or the playoff games at school during those days, those times, and I kind of miss them a little bit.
The community aspect of this tournament, now Tennessee's had the blessing of hosting it several years, and we love seeing all the different fan bases come in and all the different flavor, and we're going to be over at a place called Calhoun's on the river on Friday doing our show right in the middle of the afternoon, so we're going to get a chance to see the flavor of some of the different schools. With that in mind, I know Cincinnati put a release out last night on social media, kind of like Tennessee did, saying, hey, if I'm you, I try to get my tickets on the secondary market. How many Cincinnati fans can we expect to see in the stadium?
That's going to be a really good question because the team only gets 200 tickets, and most of those will be taken by the players' parents and administrators and coaches' families. So everybody else has to try to scramble. I just looked at Ticketmaster, and standing room only tickets are $54, and the cheapest seat that I saw, other than that actual seat, was $135 up to about $450. So UC fans aren't used to this. I don't know that they know the procedure. I didn't until now. I just learned about it yesterday and talking to the UC SID about it. And so I don't know what's going to happen. I've been in Calhoun's, by the way, when UC played Tennessee in football, I think in 2011. We went there before we went to the game. And so it's going to be interesting. I don't know. Some people will be scared away by the price, I think. That's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, the ballpark is so fun, and thanks for shouting out our friends at Calhoun's. It's a great experience. It's not something that I take for granted. Trust me, it's a real blessing. Anytime we get an opportunity to be there. Let's talk about this Bearcat Ball Club because I think they come into Friday afternoon's game with Wake Forest as a true live dog as a 3 seed, and here's why I say this. From 10,000 feet, I look at Cincinnati's numbers, and it seems to me that they thrive on getting on base, running the bases, taking advantage of your mistakes on defense. Wake Forest is a team that's committed more errors than Tennessee. Tennessee at times has been a very tough team to watch on defense. But Cincinnati loves to run the bases. If you can, share with me what we're in for as we watch the Bearcats.
Well, here in Cincinnati, we call it Bishop Ball, named after Jordan Bishop. And they like to bunt, and they are very, very efficient at bunting. They have a number of types of bunts, and where they're trying to put the ball, they have, like you mentioned, a lot of guys that they have good speed and can run. One that we're kind of holding our breath on is Landon Vitterick, who plays right field. And Vitterick, I think, got 37 out of 38 stolen bases. The only time he's been thrown out was when he got picked off. No catcher has been able to nail him as a runner. And Cincinnati has a number of other guys that run the bases very well. You're going to see them jumping around on the bases. It's hurt them at times when they've done that, because a lot of teams will have the catcher just drop his glove or have some signal to tell the pitcher to wheel and throw to second base. And the Bearcats have gotten nailed by that a few times. But they're going to try to bunt. They're going to try to run. They're going to try to disrupt. They're not going to let that pitcher, if they can help it, just rock and rip. They're going to do everything they can to make him pay attention to the runners. They'll double steal. They really try to do a lot. They recruit athletes. They want kids out there that can run and that are smart. And Bishop has really accomplished that. And sometimes it turns into a circus, because it does create a lot of errors, and they've got some kids with some speed, and it makes your defense hurry. Instead, I think it was John Wooden said, "Be quick, but don't hurry." And there's a difference between those two terms. And Cincinnati wants you to hurry instead of just being quick. So it's kind of encouraging to hear Wake has had some problems defensively, because if Cincinnati can get the ball, bat on the ball, and get some guys on base, they can create a lot of havoc.
Yeah, they throw it around, and I'll be honest with you, Tennessee throws it around too at times.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, it's for the caliber of team that this is. Look, I'm an honest broker. I know no other way to do this. For this high caliber of a club, Tennessee at times can play some really ugly defensive baseball. And so, at this level, because you and I are both used to watching Major League Ball, and people that are used to Major League Ball don't. One of the things that kind of troubles them about college ball is the number of times that balls we're used to being caught will hit the ground or get thrown away. But the truth is, the guys at the Major League level are that good. These guys are still excellent players, but there's a looseness on defense that's kind of baked into this sport in college baseball. That said, Tennessee can get pretty excessive with it when it's not going their way.
Well, they're the type of team that Cincinnati then definitely has a chance to beat.
Yes. Yes.
Like I said, bunting is almost absent in Major League Baseball.
Yes.
And in college baseball, with teams like Cincinnati, you're going to see it. And they've got a number of bunt calls that they will use on what they want to do, what they want to accomplish. And guys their players have accepted it, where they will even bunt on their own. They've got to the point where they're so efficient. They will spend 2 or 3 hours sometimes in practice just working on bunting and covering bunts. And Coach Bishop told me one day, he said, when we're really placing our bunts, as much as we have to face it in practice ourselves, even we can't defend it sometimes. So that's something to keep an eye out for, and I'm sure Tennessee will be preparing for it. But it's just tough. If they're doing it correctly and efficiently, they're tough.
I don't understand why more programs don't have that approach when I watch that sport. Now, one thing I would never do in college baseball is I would never give up an out. In other words, I'm not going to bunt to move runners over, but bunting for hits, bunting to put pressure on somebody, bunting, pushing a ball between the first baseman and the second baseman, bunting when I see a third baseman giving me too much depth out there and forcing him to make a throw, running across his body. I'll do that out there in college baseball all day long. I'm talking all day long as we visit today with Tim Adams, who's founder of Bearcat Journal. So the Cats take on Wake on Friday afternoon, and I was, we're sharing with Tim that Wake's a team that doesn't field it very well. Who will Cincinnati throw at Wake? Share with me what we're going to see pitching-wise.
You're going to see Nate Taylor. He's 6'4", about 240 pounds. Going to throw the ball probably 93, 94, maybe top out at 95. He's their stud. Here in Cincinnati, we have an amateur baseball program called Midland where Barry Larkin and Ken Griffey Jr. all played. A lot of times, a lot of the players are from other areas that they fly in here. And Nate played for them. He is one of the real, true great gets that Cincinnati has gotten out of the city. A lot of guys will go to the warmer climates, but Nate was a guy that wanted to stay in town. So he will probably, I have no doubt, he will start tomorrow or Friday at 1 o'clock when they play. And they'll try to get 7 innings out of him, maybe more, but 7 would be ideal for them. And then you might see what's been happening. Their Saturday pitcher, their other starter, is a lefty, and they've been using him as a closer just to win the first game of a series. And in this particular format, that first game is so important to get. So they might use their guy that would be their normal Saturday guy as their closer.
So if need be, they'll, quote-unquote, burn an arm in order to get by Wake. And then what would that do? Let's say, okay, who is the number 2 guy, the lefty, they might use in relief in game 1? Who are we talking about there?
Kellen O'Connor. Okay. He's from Portland, and he played at, I want to say, Bakersfield, University of California, Bakersfield last year, and they pursued him heavily to come in, and he's had one of their few complete games. He pitched well against Texas Tech and went 9 innings through 125 pitches or so. But they've been using him as their closer the last 2 weeks. The series with Kansas State, where they wanted to get that first game in because they knew they would be battling with Kansas State for a spot in the at-large. And then in the tournament, the Big 12 tournament, they did the same thing when they played Texas Tech to win the first game. And they got another guy, Adam Marakich, that they got from Central Michigan, who transferred here this year, where Coach Bissell came from. And he was their ace, but he has not had a good year here, and he's been really dropped from the rotation. So if they could get by the first game, and let's say they do play Tennessee, they'll probably go with Carson Marsh, who's a guy that's a 3 to 4 inning guy, and they'll try to piece it together after that.
So Carson Marsh, is that a right-hand, left-hand? Tell me about him.
He's a right-hander.
Okay.
It's Marsh. He played at Moeller High School, which is one of the blockbuster schools here in Cincinnati.
Yep.
He's really good the first 1 or 2 times through the order, but he's never been really stretched out. They're trying to stretch him out a little bit more now. But once he loses it, sometimes it goes bad really, really quickly. And he's the guy that if they, like I said, if they go with Kellen O'Connor as their closer on a Friday, then I would expect him to pitch the Saturday game against the winner of Tennessee-Miami. And don't take Miami lightly. I've seen them play 5 times. They're not bad at all.
Well, I'm gonna let you give me, in fact, as Matt Dixon joins the fray here on the program as well, as we visit on the TLD Logistics Hotline. Our special guest joining us, he is the founder, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Adams, founder of Bearcat Journal, and he's I told you we were going to get a 2-for-1 out of him, and he told Brian Hartman that he has, in fact, seen this Miami of Ohio club a few times. Tell me about what we're in store with them from on Friday night when that game rolls around.
They are a team not as athletic as Cincinnati, but they're going to put probably 6, maybe 7 guys that hit 300 or better. Their pitcher is going to be Cooper Katsky. He's the pitcher of the year in the Mid-American Conference. He's a transfer from Indiana. They have another kid that's hit 18 home runs this year, Evan Applewick, who's going to play first base for them. He's a very dangerous hitter. They've got a couple other guys that are in that 13 range. A shortstop named Dylan Baker that I really like. He's a really good defensive player. He bats leadoff for them. He sets the table nicely for them. And he was that first-team All-MAC guy as a utility guy, but I've only seen him play shortstop. And they have a center fielder that I really like, Anthony Zarlingo. One of the things I like about him is everybody has a walk-up song. He walks up to an Earth, Wind, and Fire song, which I find funny because I love Earth, Wind, and Fire, but how many of these young people even know who that is? But that's who he walks up with. He's an All-MAC defender in center field, and he's an All-MAC second-team guy. He's got a little bit of power, but he runs really well. And if Katsky, here's something Miami did last week in the MAC tournament. They won all 3 games, and they threw a total of 4 pitchers in 3 games. Which you don't see that very often in college baseball. If Katsky can get 7 or 8 innings or maybe go the whole way, they'll be fine. But if they have to go to the bullpen, they'll go with their left-hander. His name is Carson Byers. And he's the guy that the only relief pitcher that they used in the MAC tournament last weekend.
That is remarkable stuff. Matt Dixon, jump in with us. As we're getting the download, not to confuse the listeners here, but we've got a gentleman on here, Tim Adams, founder of Bearcat Journal, who not only knows about the Bearcats and their baseball club, but has also seen Miami of Ohio, with whom Tennessee will open the tournament on Friday night. Matt Dixon, welcome in. You're on with Tim Adams, founder of Bearcat Journal.
Yeah, Tim, just what were the expectations for Cincinnati this year? Obviously, in the Big 12, like did they expect to contend to make the tournament this year, or have they kind of overachieved?
Well, they actually did think they had a great chance to make the tournament when the year started. They just missed it. They were among the first 4 out last year. Even though their RPI was a 51 at the end of the season, they had some really nice wins, and they were among the first 4 out. So they felt like they went and got some guys, some transfers from some smaller schools to come in here, and they thought they were getting some real steals with those guys. And at times, they played a really, really difficult Big 12 schedule. They played all 7 of the top half of the league. The teams that finished 1 through 7, they played all of them. They also played the top 4 teams all on the road. And that made their schedule, their Big 12 record, a real struggle because they got swept at Arizona when 2 of their starters, their Friday and Saturday pitcher, were sick and couldn't play. And they got swept by them. And then the big turning point was sweeping Kansas, who's a number 2 seed, in a wild affair in Lawrence, Kansas, where they scored, I think one game was 15-14 or 16-15, the Bearcats won. And then stealing a win from Texas Christian a week later really helped them too. But they felt like they could make it, but about the 2/3 of the way through the season, I know with Coach Fischel, he had some doubts. He wasn't sure. He knew they had tough schedule coming up, but they won enough of those games to put themselves. Really, they weren't even in the last 4 in. They were above all that. And according to the committee, 3 other Big 12 schools were among that 4 of the last 4 in.
Tell me about that club. You were telling us about a couple of the guys, some of the guys that we'll see in the field, and we were talking about Tennessee and Wake defensively. Tell me about Cincinnati defensively and some of the guys that we will see. Bitterick's a guy you mentioned before, the left fielder who runs like the wind. Who else can we look out for? And is there some power on that club?
Well, Bitterick is their home run leader. I think he's got 14. So they don't have a thumper. Carrington Cross was the Big 12 Player of the Year. He's a 12 home run guy, but he's like watching him is like watching Pete Rose. He's going to give 100% of effort, 100% of the time. He plays third base. He's made himself into a very good fielder. He can steal some bases. I think he's 10 or 12 on the base pass. He's a very smart player. The other day in the tournament with the Big 12, he had a pop-up down the right field line that a lot of guys wouldn't have gone hard. And the second baseman came over. The ball hit his glove, went out of play, or went foul after that, but it was a fair ball. Because Cross was running the whole time, he ended up on third base for a 3-base error. So he's a guy that's really their leader. I think there's no question about that. When you're Big 12 Player of the Year, it's Cincinnati's third one that they've had. In fact, you got one of them. Griffin Merritt from Cincinnati was the American Big 12 Player of the Year, and transferred to Tennessee for his final year. So he's a big part of their offense. Like I said, Viderick will be another guy that Cal Stefsik, whose father played in the major leagues for about 8 or 9 years. They actually have a pitcher, Joel Pinero, whose father also played in the major leagues for 9 or 10 years. Their catcher, Jack Natilli, is a transfer from Rutgers, and he's got a great arm. I've seen him throw people out from his knees at second base. So that's another guy that's a big offensive weapon for them as well. They're good athletes. That's the thing. But Viderick, we're not sure he's playing just because he has an oblique injury about a week ago. So as we were interviewing Coach Bishel yesterday, he said it's day to day with him. So if they don't have him, that's a big loss because he does so many things so well. He's got a great arm. He's a great defender. He runs the bases well. He's got some pop. He's good at the plate. He's selective at the plate. He gets a lot of walks. So those are a lot of their primary offensive weapons.
Brian Hartman jump in here as so kind to join us, and really a font of information. Tim Adams, founder of Bearcat Journals, dropping the knowledge right on top of us. Go ahead, Brian.
I want to ask about the ace pitcher from Miami of Ohio. He's 11-1 in the year. I think his ERA is maybe below 3.
Sure.
And do you think that will he be able to have the same type of effectiveness facing an SEC lineup? Has he seen anything comparable to that in the MAC conference? Do you think he could be a pitcher that could have success pitching in the SEC, and will it carry over?
Well, his ERA is 2.66. I looked at that this morning, but Katsky is a transfer from Indiana. And your question's a great one because that is going to be Miami's $1 million question. He's not a flamethrower. And I don't know. I'm not sure how he's going to respond because playing in the MAC is not like playing in the SEC. So as good as he was for them, and he was a relief pitcher at Indiana as a freshman. He's only a sophomore. So I don't know. That's going to be the big question for Miami because if you can get deeper into their bullpen, you can hurt them. So they really are going to want to try to get 6-7 innings out of Katsky to really have a chance. Because even though Carson Byers left-handed, I like him, there's a drop-off even with him. And after that, then it gets even a little dicier.
So he uses his guile. What's his out pitch? Is he kind of an off-speed guy? What's his out pitch?
Yeah, he's a guy that I think placement. He's pitching the contact more. He's not a guy that has one strikeout for every inning or anything like that. So I can't say that I really know exactly what his out pitch is, but he's a guy that I think has really good control and good placement on the ball, and that probably helps him more than anything.
You know, it's hey Matt, I bring you back in here. We were sharing before you jumped in with Tim Adams that it looks like Cincinnati's got, and this stuff's so draw dependent, but it looks like Cincinnati, for what they like to do, they work on bunting sometimes, Matty was saying, for a few hours at a time, and try to place the ball differently, and different guys, and some guys will even call their own number and do it. It seems like this Wake Forest club, Matt, they've drawn here on a sleepy Friday afternoon to start the tournament. It seems like that's a pretty good draw for Cincinnati. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, it certainly can be. And I mean, even Tennessee, we've talked about how there's no real routine grounders with Tennessee's middle infield. And the way that Cincinnati can steal bases and put pressure on you, all you got to do is get on base. I do think Tennessee will throw Marcus Phillips against Miami and save Liam Doyle for the 1-0 game if they were to get that far, or at least save Doyle for Saturday. But Tennessee will give up a lot of free passes or free bases if guys can get on, and bunting for hits and things like that is a way to put a lot of pressure on Tennessee and Wake's infield, which both have been pretty shaky for most of the year. So it's a way for Cincinnati to get some guys on and really advance them. So it will be fascinating to watch.
I would imagine that Tim is a fun brand of baseball to watch when it's really clicking for Cincinnati. I'd imagine that they can really get teams in their own heads and start getting guys throwing the ball around.
I would agree with that completely, because I was basically retired. I had left the reporting world, and I watched them play last year and got on social media with it. And by the end of the year, Official contacted me and said, I'd like for you to come down to the office and talk a little bit. And his wife apparently was following me on social media, and she saw my enthusiasm for this style of ball and says, you need to talk to this guy. And that's how I got back into reporting on UC baseball, because it is a fun brand of baseball to watch. I love it. I think he's a little bit ahead of his time, and he's doing something that if you're a place like Cincinnati, you maybe aren't going to get that blue chip guy that's going to be choosing between college and going to the pros. We got to get guys maybe a little further down the food chain, but if they're willing to work and they're good athletes, they can be a real weapon in his offense. And I think, in fact, I'm going over to Covington Catholic today when I'm done with this interview to interview a kid that also plays for Midland, the Midland Redskins, and he's going to be a big time player in the next 2 or 3 years.
So on the way out, and I really appreciate your time, share with the living listener like how they can read your stuff. And sounds like you love some Bearcat baseball.
Yeah, the Bearcat Journal, BearcatJournal.com is part of the 247 Sports Network, and Chad Rendell runs it now. He does a fantastic job, and they've got a number of reporters. And this year, we've really put more of an effort into the baseball, and it really helped that the baseball team was winning. In Tennessee standards, I know 1,000 people a game isn't very much, but in Cincinnati, who hasn't been to the postseason play very often, they're just under 1,000 for this year, and that's a record for them
excellent.
To have that many people. And so anyway, back to Bearcat Journal, just BearcatJournal.com, and you'll see all the interviews from yesterday. You'll see Coach Bischel's interview from yesterday is on there, a video of him on there, and all the guys I mentioned, Nate Taylor, the pitcher, you'll see his interviews there. Carrington Cross, the Big 12 Player of the Year, his interviews there. So if you want to get a little bit about those guys and see them, that'd be a great way to do it.
Bearcat Journal, check out Tim Adams. Hey, Tim, thanks, man. And now your game starts at 1. If you come down around 11, we'll feed you down there at Calhoun's when we get on the air. You come on down and get some lunch with us. I'd be glad to do that.
Well, thank you very much for that offer. I appreciate it.
Thank you, my man. Good talking to you. Tim Adams, founder of Bearcat Journal. Brad, put him on my guest list, please. TGMD, I don't know why more teams don't play that pressure style of baseball, because if I was playing college baseball, I would force these teams, just like, last week, and I forget what game it was in. Maybe it was the Texas game, Matt, but there was the third base coach from Texas, I want to say. Or maybe it was the Alabama game. They all run together for me, but one of Tennessee's wins, the third base coach conservatively held a guy. Hey, Matt, in college baseball, I'm making you make the play, man. If that's a 50-50 ball in the outfield, and I got somebody that can halfway run, because what happened was Tennessee backpicked the runner trying to get back to the base, and it wasn't the runner's fault because It was a really bad non-send. I play on the edge, Matt, if I'm one of these teams. What do you think?
Yeah, it was the Alabama game. The guy he thought he hit a triple and a 2-run triple, and they held the trail runner at third, and the batter was rounding second and went about probably 10 steps towards third and got picked off. So yeah, that was an interesting move, a really conservative move that you force a defense like Tennessee to make that play and make that throw, and then make that relay. So yeah, it's weird that more teams don't play that way, especially teams maybe up north that play in colder weather and don't play in like home run friendly parks. But I think it's kind of like in football why more teams don't run the option when they really don't have a chance to be, compete for championships, and it's just hard to recruit to, I guess. And it almost feels like you're kind of conceding that you're not as good as the other team, maybe talent wise, that you have to kind of gimmick your way through. But I agree with you in college baseball. Putting the ball in play is a really big deal, and you see that you can get on base, without a hit, and a lot more frequently in the college game than the pros. So I'm surprised more teams don't put pressure on teams that way as well.
Why do I feel, Matt, more afraid of that Cincinnati team than that Wake Forest team right now, looking at this regional? And is that because I know Cincinnati doesn't have the pitching. We know they don't. He just said they got the guy they're going to throw Friday night, and then their second starter is a guy they're going to use in relief to get through the first game. He said that's what they did in their tournament. That's what they've been doing down the stretch in the season as the games drew more critical. But the whole concept of I'm going to bunt the ball over there at third base, I'm going to push him over there to second. They're watching film. Matt, they're going to push the ball at our second baseman. They are. Am I traumatized here, or do you think I'm justified to feel the way I feel after talking to him? And
that's the way Cincinnati plays, and they're a team that steals a bunch of bases. I think they're like top 25 nationally.
That's another thing. Yeah,
it's part of who they are. They're not going to change anything up. It's part of who they are, and it's. I think if they played Tennessee, that's their way to kind of steal a game, or at least try to steal some runs, and hope your pitching holds up. But yeah, we've talked about it, especially when Phillips is out there. I mean, any guy that gets on first is almost always going to end up at third, and then you're just that one bloop hit, or really you're not even a hit. You put a ball in play in the infield, and you can score a run that way. I mean, they've had. I wish I would have counted the number of runs that scored this year when a ball never left the infield after a guy was on first, and it's way too high. And I would assume it's probably like 15 or 20.
That's why that Vanderbilt game.
To think about.
That's why the Vanderbilt game, Matt, was maddening. It was almost like an insult to your intelligence in those early innings, and you could see Tony over there with the smoke coming out of his ears, and afterwards he snapped in the media, but. The fact is that nothing in baseball, nothing in life can be more frustrating than that. When you're watching sports, that you're going to score multiple runs without getting a hit. You walk, or I throw a ball away, you're on first base. 2 pitches later, you're standing on third. I hit a ground ball, you score. We do it 2 innings in a row. Let's do it 3 innings in a row. I mean, at some point, you're like, what are we doing here? And that's when
there's a carryover effect to when Tennessee hits too.
Yes.
From that. Like it just kind of sucks the life out of your team when you give up runs that way. I think there's the carryover effect that we probably don't even talk about as much, but I think it wears on a team, and over the course of a year, when that first thing starts snowballing, it's one of those things that this team doesn't recover from because they just know it's going to continue.
So a couple of intriguing teams in Miami of Ohio who Tennessee sees Friday. and a very good scrappy pitcher. Hey, Matt, he mixes up what, a couple pitches? Is that right?
Yeah, it's like a low to mid-90s fastball, nothing crazy. And then he's got a curveball that I think he can throw for strikes, or he can throw to kind of as a chase pitch for strikeouts. The one thing that will be interesting with him, and he was a reliever to start the year at Miami. So like he transferred from Indiana, where it was kind of a little used midweek arm, like bullpen arm, and he didn't become a starter at Miami until league play began. But I mean, he's 11 wins is I think the second or third most in the country, and been a real workhorse. He threw 125 pitches and threw a complete game on last Saturday in their conference tournament in like the semifinals against the 2 seed. So it'll be interesting to see. I assume he'll pitch on a little bit of short rest, but that was his the most pitches he's thrown this year. So he might not be quite 100%. So that will be something that will be worth monitoring. But no, he's been really, really good. But Brian brought up the good question: how does it translate to the SEC and to what's generally a hitter-friendly park, even though it hasn't played that way for much of this year?
And Tennessee, I don't know what it is, but perennially guys like him, Tennessee likes those showcase arms. They hit those guys. Guys like him who are the kind of the guile, get you out my brain type pitchers, the low 90s guys, it's been a bugaboo for us. This is an interesting regional because everybody's got reasons to feel good about it, and everybody's got reasons to kind of go, we got issues here. We're going to unpack Wake on the other side. Hey, Matt, this Wake team, now I was talking to somebody that's seen them and was telling me they're a lot like Tennessee, except they're just not as good. But they approach the game similarly. The pitching staffs look almost the same. But if Tennessee will take their walks, if they see Wake, Matt, they're going to get on base a bunch. But they have to take their walks. You got to be disciplined against them because they have some guys that can really bring it.
Yeah, they give up. I think it's over 5 walks a game. It's almost closer to 6.
Sugar,
which is really high for
ridiculous
a team like that. So and Tennessee will take. I mean, Andrew Fisher will take walks. Some other guys, they haven't necessarily taken a bunch of walks, but they've taken a lot of pitches. They've just been strikes. So it will be interesting to see. I think that's not a good recipe against Tennessee.
No,
to
get you beat.
Free base.
Yep.
Then you're just that one swing away from giving up a 3-run homer, and you give up 1 or 2 of those a game, and you have no chance.
And I was told, which is why I was telling our guests this, I was also told if you think we throw the ball around on defense, you ought to watch these guys, because I was told when they start throwing it around, it looks like the Keystone Cops. So we'll take a brief timeout. Very weird year in college baseball. Matt pointed out that the 2 teams that started the season 1 and 2 missed the tournament. Texas, who was the number 1 seed for, 8 of the 10 weeks, it looked like they were going to be the number 1 seed in the whole deal. They've got like the 6th best odds in Vegas to win the Natty right now. Tennessee's got higher odds than Texas does. I don't know how that is. I don't pretend to know how all that stuff works. That's way over my pay grade, but this tournament feels like it's anybody's from the outset. And I'll tell you what, if I'm a Cincinnati, I'd feel like I got a chance to get out of here this weekend. And I'm a 3 seed. I think there's a bunch of 3 seeds that will have chances this weekend to get out of respective regionals, rather. We're going to come back, and I think that makes for a great tournament as we continue with more. Hour number 2 after this.
WJBE 1040 AM 99.7 FM. Translator W259AB. Powell, Knoxville.
It's the hottest post-game show on the planet. Garza Law. 5th quarter fan reaction. As soon as the final gun sounds, we're live.
Tony Basilio, and we've got Chad Stockton with FC Alliance. Chad?
Well, I'm up in Johnson City, Tennessee with our FC Alliance North location that we started this past fall. We are doing well. We kickstarted the spring season with games this past weekend, and we've got more games coming up the next few weeks. So we're excited about what the springtime holds for us. Our girls' ECNL is also into the middle of their spring season. They hosted a huge weekend this weekend coming from Pittsburgh and New York, the teams they hosted. Good results, hard teams they played all weekend long. We've got such a focus on skill development and focusing on what's the right way to play for our kids. As we continue to grow, we're expecting our programs to continue to grow like they have been the past few years. Our tryouts are coming up in late May. For the U12 and under, it's the middle of May, and then for the older kids, it'll be late May. But we're expecting to grow not only in Knoxville, but also in Johnson City.
And if you want more information, you can see what Chad's talking about and hear those kids and get involved. It's FCAllianceKnox.org. Again, FCAllianceKnox.org. Hey, Chad, thanks, man. Many happy returns, my brother.
Thank you, Tony.
Hi, I'm Jim Simpson, owner of Simpson Meats. When's the last time you grilled a really good burger or steak? One your friends still talk about. Our goal at Simpson Meats is to make that happen every time you have a cookout. All of our cuts of meats, steaks, burgers, briskets, and pork are always fresh, flavorful, and sustainably sourced. We are family owned, so we know the importance of knowing how and where your food is raised. We have been putting quality first since 1888. Visit our butcher shop off Lovell Road or online at simpsonmeats.com.
Listen up, baseball fans. It's time to step up to the plate and get some new Tennessee gear from Alumni Hall. Don't you dare swing and miss by shopping elsewhere. Alumni Hall has the best selection, top brands for you to choose from. Shop in store, 3 Knoxville locations, or Bristol or Murfreesboro. Anytime online, anywhere in the world at alumnihall.com. Come grab your Tennessee baseball jerseys. Incredible. Oh, Coach Vitello's jersey, hats, decals, t-shirts, and so much more. Earn $10 in rewards for every $150 spent. Shop Alumni Hall, your ultimate Tennessee shopping destination. Go Vols from Alumni Hall. Tony Basilio along with the great Mark Griffin. And we're here to talk about our friends at Performance Medicine. And Griff, their slogan, stay educated, stay healthy. That's you.
Wow. I really like to think that, Tony, and I'd like to give Dr. Rogers a lot of credit because I definitely want to stay educated and healthy, and knowing that he's putting the time and effort in to make sure of my care, I want to encourage your listeners to put the time to learn and become educated and get to know Dr. Rogers and see if it can help with your health as well.
And there's a really, really easy way to do that. In fact, they've got their own YouTube channel. You can see Dr. Rogers for himself with his staff. It's called The Performance Medicine Show over at the Performance Medicine channel over on YouTube. Also, more information at performancemedicine.net. To our friends in North Knoxville, a brand new location over in Fountain City, now accepting patients. So many ways to reach Dr. Rogers. And like they say, stay educated, stay healthy. Performance Medicine, online, performancemedicine.net. TB here for Cedar Bluff Plumbing, a live and local company that's been serving our area for over 32 years and counting because every customer counts, and I mean no job is too small. Cedar Bluff Plumbing just voted #1 by City View magazine because multiple plumbing experts are on call to serve all your plumbing needs. Chances are there'll be a plumber in your area when you call, and they won't send some salesman to your house. You're going to get a high character, trustworthy, highly trained plumber who will serve you. Not like some of these guys that look like they came off the set of America's Most Wanted. Cedar Bluff Plumbing is Basilio tested and approved and will go the extra mile for you because Chucky Mack is a servant of the people and my consigliere to the throne, celebrating over 32 years of serving living volunteers. Cedar Bluff Plumbing. Call 588-4448. That's 588-4448. Cedar Bluff Plumbing.
Attention Vol fans, are you tired of complicated, clunky fleet technology that makes your job harder? Say goodbye to frustration and hello to Connexial, your hometown partner in logistics. It's time to rev up your operations with next level fleet management from Connexial. Connexial is here to keep your business on track with technology that works as hard as you do. Our game-changing ELD gives you more than just hours of service. With AI-powered dash cameras and real-time asset tracking, you'll have eyes on the road, cargo, and your fleet from anywhere, anytime. And the best part, our friendly, U.S.-based customer support team is just one phone call away. No more long wait times or frustrating tech talk. Just real people with real solutions. With Connexial, you get a professional team you can trust and easy-to-use products that keep you on the road. What do you say, Tony?
I'm ready. Make the smart move and call Connexial today.
865-888-6920. Learn more at Connexial.com. That's Konexial.com. Drive life with Connexial and go Vols.
Basilio here, and my friends at Carnes Motor Company started with a dream over a quarter century ago. I met Rob and Brian back when I still had hair, and they were working at a huge dealership in West Knoxville. But they told me back then they wanted to sell cars on their terms, and I wanted to do radio on my terms. Their terms, just like my terms, are ultimately your terms. In both cases, you're the winner. A Car Guru's National Award winner with a 5-star rating on all sites, just like our Vols. Everything about buying a car from Carnes Motor Company is no hassle. They specialize in high-quality pre-owned vehicles between the $5,000 to $25,000 range. And if you need to sell a car, they'll either buy your car or they'll help you sell it. Carnes Motor Company also has a top-notch service department. Therefore, every vehicle is rigorously inspected and serviced prior to delivery. So you're guaranteed to get a quality pre-owned vehicle every time. If you need a place for service, they've got you covered. Come be a part of the Carnes Motor Company family and tell them you heard about it from me. Online at carnesmotor.com, Oak Ridge Highway, 1 mile past the Carnes light. Carnes Motor Company.
Yee-haw! Some people say betting online is still the wild, wild west. But with the VIP Play app, you're riding with the best. VIP Play app is hotter than a $2 pistol packed with flair. Live hosts and features finer than a frog hair. Send your old betting problems out of town with a slap. You'll be betting sharp as a tack on the VIP Play app.
Don't be a better, be a better with VIP Play today.
Download VIP Play today or head to VIPPlayApp.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-88-99789. Must be 21 plus and located in Tennessee to bet.
Jeff Hall here. I'm a partner at Rather & Kittrell Capital Management. Life is full of transitions. Planning for retirement, managing investments, or navigating major life changes. Here at Rather & Kittrell, we're here to guide you through every step. Visit rkcapital.com or call 865-218-8400 to start your journey toward financial clarity today. Rather & Kittrell is a registered investment advisor.
Tony, be back with you. And we are Connor O'Neill now joining Deacon Illustrated. Look, all lines are jammed. I'm going to be fair to you. If you want to hang on, we'll come to you. But the TLD Logistics hotline is getting a workout today. And I was just talking to Connor off the air. He's with Deacon Illustrated. As Wake coming to town this weekend. And Connor, we're forever indebted to the athletic director over there, John Curry, who literally made the best hire, maybe in a men's sport here, maybe in the modern era. I mean, it's crazy how good Tony Vitello is.
And I'm sure if John had his say, he would say that he doesn't get enough credit for that one because everybody seems to remember another hire that he tried to make.
Oh, that now, Connor, I'm working out at the YMCA, okay? This is a true story. And I got a call from somebody at Tennessee, and that whole week was like, you talk about something that happened in a parallel universe, but they said, John Curry is missing, and we don't know where he is. And that's when he... And that's when he turned his phone off and went to Washington. But you know as well as I do that John Curry is he's an acquired taste, and he's a little different to say the least. But Connor O'Neill joining us. You and I were talking off the air. We got this link. We got this link going between Tennessee and Wake, and last year it was supposed to happen. We were trying to remember on the draw show that we did yesterday who beat Wake in that first game, and you reminded me it was like alphabet soup weekend, the two teams they lost to.
Yeah, it was VCU not to be confused with ECU, the host. VCU has a decent program up in Richmond. Certainly helps that it's a school where you can get a lot of guys in. That was I believe the score was 1-0, and Wake turned to a Maryland transfer, David Falco, who had been a reliever for most of the season. And their starting pitching situation was in such flux that it was like they've got one bullet to spend with Chase Burns. They had an inconsistent Josh Hartle, who had been a just dynamite sophomore when they went to the College World Series 2 years ago. And Falco pitched a great game. I think went like 6 or 7 innings, but also, as we were talking off air, you can't win if you don't score.
Yeah, we've seen it this year. Me and Matt were talking earlier today, Matt Dixon, who's in here along with Brian Hartman, and we were talking about how in the postseason, when you don't hit and you're sitting there watching that, and you know what it looks like when you see it, man, it is, and the pressure just starts to build as the game goes on. They didn't hit at all, right, that weekend with ECU and VCU last year. They didn't hit at all, did they?
I think the ECU loss wound up being 7-6, and they had a huge, if I remember correctly, man, it all bleeds together at this point.
Yeah,
and believe me, Wake fans have wanted to forget that weekend since the last game, their last game ended. They had a big top of the ninth against ECU, and then I think ECU put up an even bigger bottom of the ninth to win.
I remember that. They sat there all game, and they weren't hitting. They took a lead because we were watching it at Calhoun's. We were watching it, and we were watching our game concurrently because that's the other thing. You know you're linked with this team. That's a thing that's unique about this tournament. You already know this is who we're going to play. And, man, we were like – last year, we were all just like, why'd they do this to us? They're trying to put Chase Burns in our deal, and, he's going to come in here, and then they just got beat. But let's talk about Wake this year. Wake, have they performed in your mind? Have they performed to what you thought they would be? A little better, a little less? Where are they in your mind?
They've missed expectations a little bit. I thought they would be top 4 or 5 in the ACC, and they finished 8th. It is interesting comparing the records. Tennessee went 16-14 in the SEC, and Wake went 16-14 in the ACC. Of course, with these mega conferences, no conference record is ever the same as other teams. It's not the story of Wake's season, but it's certainly something you have to get out there right away. Ethan Conrad is going to be a first-round pick, and I don't think he played a single ACC game. He played the first 2 or 3 weeks and suffered an injury that required a surgery, and so he's out for the year. He was their center fielder, middle-of-the-order type hitter. Really made for a pretty awesome lineup with 2 first-rounders in there, assuming Merrick Houston also gets picked in the first. But they still have a decent lineup. They still are able to pitch a little bit, but it's been a little bit of a disappointing season. And if Wake is able to come through this regional, then it kind of the tone of the season changes completely, right? Like, this is a part of the year where you can change every way that we talk about your season with one good weekend.
Well, superstar Will Heflin, who hosts our Garza Law Extra Innings post-game show, said to me yesterday, and he played on Tennessee, Tony Vitello's first World Series team. And I said, how do we talk about this Tennessee team? Because it's been kind of He said, Tony, listen, this is the season. Well, I'm not speaking of any team until they play their postseason. And I thought that is a freaking truer words have never been spoken. Really, I mean, what would you have said about Wake's team last year going into that, their regional versus how you looked at them after they bowed out in a couple of games? That is straight fact right there.
Yeah, it's what you build for the entire season. I also covered Duke, and I was at their selection show meeting yesterday, or the viewing party. And their coach, Chris Pollard, is very, very bright. Been in college baseball. He's a college baseball lifer. And he just said, since August 26th, our first team meeting, this is what we've been building to. Since February 14th, the season opener, this is what we've been building to. And now it's here. This is why we grind through those batting sessions when it's 37 degrees out in January. So it's all here, and it's tough to lay all of the judgment of a season on a couple games, but nobody said it was going to be easy.
Well, the other thing you learn too when you watch the rhythm of the sport is that these coaches, the veteran guys that know they're going to be in the tournament, use the season to learn about their team. They put kids in certain spots. They take a freshman, stick them in a high leverage spot. How's they going to perform? Take a reliever, let him have a start. What do they look like? Try this guy over here at this position. Try that guy over there at that position. Looking at the numbers for Wake, Connor, it looks like they do not field the baseball well. Are those numbers deceiving, or do they not field the baseball well?
No, it's the latter. The numbers don't lie. This is not a very good fielding team. I believe at least about a week or two ago when I looked at it, they had given up the most unearned runs in the ACC, or at least the gap between runs allowed and earned runs was the biggest in the ACC. Now you say that, and we have a tendency in baseball to think an unearned run was not the pitcher's fault. Wake's pitchers are actually a lot of times the ones committing the errors. So it's a situation where, it's an unearned run when the pitcher threw away a bunt attempt and a guy went from first to third or whatever. It is still kind of the pitcher's fault. It just doesn't go down in the way we track stats on his ERA, but they've got some what's the acronym for it? PFP. They've got some PFP problems, and that's cost them all year, and at other positions too. They took a little bit to figure out how their infield would slot in around shortstop Merrick Houston, and eventually they got to it. But yeah, it's been a little bit of a tough watch sometimes with Wake in the field.
Yeah, this Tennessee team has as well. Who's the guy besides whoever's on the pitching mound? Is there a hold your breath player for Wake when the balls hit their way? Everybody just kind of goes, "Oh God, please make the play."
I don't know if this is fair to say now, but it certainly was in the first few months of the year when Cade Lewis was at third base. He's a Butler transfer who up until recently was hitting over 400, so you need his bat in the lineup, but he took quite a while to adjust to third base. But he's been better lately, right? Otherwise, I mean, Merrick Houston, I think might lead them in errors, but that might be a situation where he has so much range at shortstop, he gets to a lot of balls. I don't know the advanced metrics on how many runs saved he has versus runs allowed, but I would say he's a plus defender at shortstop, and he has been. He's a 3-year starter. He's basically the only guy left from the Wake team that 2 years ago was in Omaha. So he might lead them in errors, but he's not a liability out there at shortstop is the way I'd say it.
Brian Hartman jump in here as we are blessed to be joined by a guy that pulls double duty, covers some Duke stuff as well. Connor O'Neill's a busy guy, but he's representing Deacon Illustrated today and talking about Wake, who will be in. They open Friday afternoon with the Cincinnati Bearcats. The winner will get the winner of the Tennessee-Miami of Ohio game. Brian, jump in here.
Yeah, what happened 2 years ago? Wake Forest had this incredible offense. They were called Wake Forest. How did they go from that to just a year later unable to score many runs? And also want to ask you about Matthew Dallas, who started out at Tennessee and transferred to Wake Forest, and what they expect from him. And the type of season he's had.
Yeah, so to start with Matthew, as much as people wanted to draw the line between what Chase Burns was at Tennessee and what he became at Wake Forest and how he parlayed that into, for another month or two, we'll be able to say he has the highest signing bonus in Major League Baseball history. I'm sure that'll probably be outdone in July. But it was just never going to make that much sense to have Matthew Dallas come in as the next Chase Burns, right? Because Chase Burns was an established 2-year guy at Tennessee. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Matthew Dallas was never close to having the role or the leverage type situations that Chase did in his 2 years.
Yes, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah. He's been okay. He's been a little inconsistent, which I would say is to be expected of a sophomore who's starting on the weekends for the first time. He had a rough game against Virginia Tech and bounced back, I think, in his next start and had a good one. It's kind of the case for a lot of Wake's pitchers. They've been inconsistent all year. They're doing a lot of searching with guys that aren't named Blake Morningstar. That's the one guy that I think if both of them win, Tennessee will see him on Saturday. But there's a lot of searching going on with Wake's pitching staff. It's very much not the staff that they had 2 years ago, when you could just basically count on Rhett Lauder or Josh Hartle going 6 or 7 innings, and you had back end pieces in the bullpen that you could trust to come in and lock things down. To the offense question, this Wake team hits. They don't hit quite as much as 2 years ago. That was a lineup 1 through 9 that could hurt you. But they've gotten length lately. Like, they've gotten good at-bats out of their 7 and 8 hole guys. Austin Hawk, all of a sudden, who's the brother of a guy who was on the team 2 years ago, Tommy Hawk was the leadoff hitter. Austin Hawk, very much not his brother, but is all of a sudden hitting a few homers. I think he's got like 7 or 8 in the last month and a half, which is very much not what his profile is. They're getting better at bats out of it. Just, you guys know it makes such a difference when you can get better at bats out of the bottom of your lineup, and you don't have, 1 out of every 3 innings when the bottom of your lineup's coming up, and you can't count on any run production of any sort or any grinding at bats of any sort. So Wake's offense is, I would say, trending in the right direction.
Well, it's a great point in college baseball. My cursory knowledge of it, when you go 1, 2, 3 at the bottom of your order and you do it in 5 pitches, that's about completely demoralizing in that sport. I mean, you got it. It's almost like you got to get a 10-minute reset. It doesn't matter if you want to strike out, and if 3 guys want to K there, okay, fine, but see some pitches, step out of the box. Give me a little bit of a break here. Let me bring Matt Dixon in here as we visit today with Connor O'Neill, Deacon Illustrated. Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, just who in Wake's lineup should Tennessee fans get to know before this weekend and be able to watch and I guess in their game against Cincinnati before Tennessee's, and then if they play Tennessee, who are the 1 or 2 guys that Tennessee fans need to focus on?
Number 1's probably Merrick Houston, the shortstop. Like I said, he's a projected first rounder. He really bulked up over the off season. He was kind of a opposite field gap hitter. This year he's gotten into double-digit homers, but a lot of his power and production came in the first half of the season. And the second half of the season, to me, he has looked a little banged up. There was one game, I think it was either against Gardner-Webb or Boston College later in the season, where he had a double and he pulled into second base and he looked like he was kind of grabbing at his right hip. He has looked better in the last week or two. So maybe he got a little bit of health there in the final exam break when they took a week off. But he's the one. Number 2 is probably Jack Winay. He's a junior, plays first base, a lot of power from the right side. He actually, for the longest time last year, I was making jokes about he was the guy who had a single against Paul Skeens, because in the game out in Omaha 2 years ago, he was the late substitution into the game for Nick Kurtz. He was a 11th hour scratch before that classic out there. And Jack Winay, I think, had the only hit of the game. I think he had Wake's only hit against Paul Skeens. If it wasn't the only hit, it was one of only like 2 or 3 in that game. So he's obviously seen some situations. He was a draft eligible sophomore last year that had a great season and came back this year. So he's looking like, I would assume, probably a middle second day pick. Those are the 2 guys that I'd probably keep an eye on.
And if anything's going to get Wake this weekend, what's going to get them? Because I understand also, just somebody was sharing with me that, boy, these guys, when they start walking people, they can really start walking people.
Yeah, this isn't breaking news for college baseball, but I'd just go to the self-inflicted errors. I mean, it literally with the errors in the field, and then with not throwing strikes. They were 1 game and out in the ACC tournament, losing to Cal, and oh my God, that was a 4-hour, 10-minute game with a combined like 26 walks and 7 hit batters, and Wake just put pitcher after pitcher into the game that could not throw strikes. And then a couple times when their guys did throw strikes, they got hit about 400 feet. So that was a bit of it was a bullpen-ish day. Their starter, Logan Lunsford, was actually their Friday night guy for the first half of the season, and he's fallen off quite a bit, obviously. But it's the self-inflicted stuff that is going to make or break Wake Forest this weekend.
These seasons, man, they're out of season. By now, you know your ball club, and by now you're also glad. Another thing that's interesting about the tournament is, in many cases, you're going to go play teams from other leagues that have to expose your deficiencies, whereas in your league, your deficiencies get really exposed because they know you. So with that in mind, Blake Morningstar, share with me, because you say he's the guy the Vols probably see. Tell us about him, what his out pitches are, and then just, kind of what we're going to see from him.
He is a big 6'4", 225-pound righty. He really grew into the Friday night role. Wake wanted him to get into the Friday night role about a month before they could actually move him in there because of the way the schedule broke. They had a Thursday-Saturday series on the schedule against Carolina that wound up being Friday, Saturday, Sunday because of a bunch of rain, and they just couldn't get Blake Morningstar into the Friday night role until the last few weeks of the year. He looks like the next guy who could be an ACC Pitcher of the Year from Wake, after Rhett Lauder did it twice and then Chase was the Pitcher of the Year last year. I don't know that. Look, he doesn't have overpowering stuff in the same way that Chase did. He's not throwing 100. He's not, galloping around the field after strikeouts. That's not a slight against Chase. It's just you guys saw the emotional reactions when he would get a strikeout. That's not exactly who Blake is. I don't know off the top of my head. I would assume his fastball sits mid-90s. Everything moves with sync, though. He talked to us after a start, I think it was against Pittsburgh, about adding a sinker and a cutter this year because in part of Wake's ballpark, you can give up some cheap homers if you don't keep the ball down and keep it on the ground. So he'll go to those. They're new pitches, but they were obviously effective for him this year. And he throw ground balls. As long as your defense isn't throwing the ball around the yard, then you can make quite a living in college baseball.
Really great stuff, man. Any questions for us on Tennessee and what the Deacons are walking into here?
I guess, how does this team measure up to last year's, or is it just last year is so much in the rearview mirror because there's so much roster turnover that there's not exactly a fair comp?
In a lot of ways, this team's having to, the 20, the undefeated.
There's no comparison.
There's no comparison, but the undefeated streak.
It's not.
The undefeated streak that they had to begin the year sort of elevated expectations to a point that they were never going to live up to them. Tony Vitello would come on the show regularly and say, "Hey, we're not that good," and they knew they had holes. And the thing about Tony is, a lot of coaches, when they say we're not that good, really mean we're really great and I'm just playing the game with you. But he's a type, he's nuts. So he's just like, hey, I'm just telling you, we're just not that good. I mean, I'm glad you are looking at our record. And so what happened with Tennessee is their start was, I think, induced by the fact that in the league they played some lesser likes that went on, and or at that point teams that hadn't found themselves yet, because a couple of them did and got into the field. But this Tennessee team mirrors that Wake team, because when they start throwing it around, it can get really ugly in a hurry. And like Matt said, the thing that's really different about this year's team, we were talking about it over the weekend, they just don't have what we call in that sport dudes. They do not have guys that are going to what's the word, Matt? Is it even like clutch up? I guess that's not fair, but they don't have carry you guys, right, Matt? In this, the hitters outside of Fisher, they don't have real carry you players.
Yeah, there's no Christian Moore, no Blake Burke. Andrew Fisher and Liam Doyle are kind of the edge and the guys that play with that emotion, like Chase Burns kind of does. And their transfers, both of them this is their third school in 3 years, so it's hard for them to be like team leaders and locker room guys. And the rest of the team just doesn't have that edge to them that Vitello's previous teams do. Outside of Hunter Inslee in center field, he's the one who made the running catch at the wall in Omaha. Yep. He's kind of the heartbeat of the team. And then Dean Curley was the starting shortstop last year as a true freshman. And he's been really bad defensively. They've moved him all around, and they're trying to hide him at second base. And he's kind of got the yips now, so it's been a struggle for him. So there's really not a comparison to last year. There's very little turnover, and what turnover there is they were mostly role players last year. So they're not really it's kind of like Wake from 2 years ago. They're just a totally different team at this point.
And aside for you, question about Wake. Will they run? Are they going to come in here and run the bases? Is that part of what they do?
A little bit, but no, not much. I feel like I'm Charlie Brown and Lucy's holding the football if Lucy was the enticement of the first couple weekends. Because every year I feel like I go out and look at Wake in the first few weeks of the year and think, oh my God, they've got a more athletic team. They're not going to be as reliant on hitting 3-run homers this year. Like, they're actually going to have to manufacture some runs, put some pressure on defenses. And then it gets to April and they've got already 4 guys with double-digit homers, and I'm sitting there like, well, that was a fun story while it lasted.
Yeah, it's funny. Those non-league games, I mean, you watch those things and you think you're coming to conclusions about your team, and then you get into your season and you're like, yeah, well, that was kind of fun. While we do that all the time here. It's like, whoa, look at that guy and look at this, and they've added a wrinkle, and then they get into the league and it's like, oh, okay, we're just going to kind of do what we do. Yeah. If folks want to read your work, how do they do so? And I really appreciate your time today, Connor O'Neill. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, my pleasure, Tony. My website is wakeforest.rivals.com. That is still the website, even though there's a pending merger between Rivals and On3. If you want to go this week and check out my work, that's wakeforest.rivals.com. Deacons Illustrated, it's gonna have some write-ups on Wake Forest and also on the rest of the teams in the region.
Thank you, my friend. Hey, have a great one. Hey, this Cincinnati bunch, pretty intriguing baseball team. I don't know if you've heard what they do. We just had a guy on that tells us they've got like four different bunts that they work on, and they will spend I know you're laughing. They will spend a couple of hours in practice every once in a while working on their bunting and where they're going to push the ball and moving the ball around and putting pressure on defenses. One thing I got to say to you is better you than us, man. Better you guys than us.
That sounds like it could be problematic for Wake's defense. I'll come out and say the unspoken part right there. That sounds like an issue for Wake.
Hey, you have a great one, Connor. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And Matt, the funny thing is you in baseball, you can kind of see the stuff coming. I know people say, well, it's junk baseball and it's gimmick baseball and it's this and it's that. Hey, listen, in college ball, I'm putting the ball in play, man. Now, in Major League Baseball, you do that, you're getting steamrolled. In college baseball, I'm putting the ball in play. I will force you to make plays. And you heard him, Matt, there at the end, at that little nugget, the way he ingested that little nugget. He was like, okay.
Yeah, that's not good. No, it's true. Getting into the weeds, I think, batting average on balls in play in college is like 40 points higher than it is in the big leagues.
Wow.
And that doesn't even factor in the amount of errors and the small ball stuff that college teams do where you can reach base, and obviously the walks and things like that. There's just so much more traffic on bases in the college game. And, even though a lot of teams have become home run dependent, there are still plenty of teams that play small ball. So it's putting the ball in play is a big deal in the college game.
Hey, Brian Hartman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's love on Brian for a second. Hey, Brian, that was a great blog entry you sent today. Great.
And I really like the guest contributions.
And the two guys that you've added today were fantastic. This is Brian Hartman Appreciation Day as far as I'm concerned.
Two first rounders in the guest. Yeah. Those were two showcase arms.
Yeah.
And hopefully another showcase arm tomorrow as the Miami, Ohio head coach Brian Smiley on his way to Knoxville will
I'm sure
jump on for a few minutes.
I'm sure that guy will suck. I'm just kidding. I want Dizzy Payton to come back, Brian, visit with us. Wonder if he'll come break the tournament down. I'll tell you one guy, Brian, we could probably... Yeah, go ahead.
He probably has a good perspective on what Wright State can do against Vanderbilt.
They might have played Cincinnati and Miami this year, to be honest.
They did. Actually, they do. I think they do have something called the Joe Nuxall Classic where Cincinnati, Xavier, Miami, Ohio, Wright State participate in it.
Hey, Dixon,
I think they did play Miami like the first or second weekend of the season. I think Northern Kentucky did play them. Now that I remember looking at the schedule.
Because Matt likes to watch the Norse on ESPN Plus. He likes my boy Dizzy Payton. How could you not? How could you not like Dizzy Payton? Guy's named after Dizzy Dean, for crying out loud. How cool are his parents to call your kid Dizzy? So we continue.
They also played a midweek game in Knoxville earlier this season, back in May, I think, or late August, or not late August, but late April.
Yeah, Tennessee had to use Dylan Loy and Nate Snead to win that game.
That was fun. That's kind of, Matt, when we started to go, some of those midweek games, Matt, when we weren't when we weren't ripping people apart anymore, we were kind of all talking to each other going, maybe this team's not kind of...
Yeah, when this team was scoring 5 runs against other, low major teams, like midweek bullpen arms, that was not a good sign that they were going to turn it around.
It's not a sport that lies to you. Let's put it that way. As we continue with more on the other side, we'll get calls in. We have a full bank. So if one jumps off, you can jump in, but we'll continue after this.
Guests appear on the TLD Logistics Hotline. Online at tldlogistics.com.
This week is the perfect week to check out your Knoxville Smokies in the brand new Covenant Health Park. Tuesday through Sunday, pick a game, like Thirsty Thursday with half-off draft beers, Harry Potter Night and fireworks on Friday, Margaritaville and fireworks on Saturday, and get out early on Sunday and snag your Matt Shaw bobblehead. So much going on every single night. Get your tickets now at SmokiesBaseball.com.
Hi, I'm Jim Simpson, owner of Simpson Meats. When's the last time you grilled a really good burger or steak? One your friends still talk about. Our goal at Simpson Meats is to make that happen every time you have a cookout. All of our cuts of meats, steaks, burgers, briskets, and pork are always fresh, flavorful, and sustainably sourced. We are family owned, so we know the importance of knowing how and where your food is raised. We have been putting quality first since 1888. Visit our butcher shop off Lovell Road or online at simpsonmeats.com.
Peace of mind is priceless, especially when it comes to your home safety and your family's comfort. That's why the pros at Pipe Wrench Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling created the Peace of Mind Maintenance Plan. Preventative maintenance for HVAC and plumbing is like changing your vehicle's oil, and experts recommend scheduling regular system checks to keep everything running smoothly. With Peace of Mind, you can safeguard your home from unexpected costly breakdowns and repairs. You'll get tons of benefits, including full system checks on HVAC and plumbing systems, water heater flushes, sewer camera inspection, 10% automatic discount on repairs, priority bookings, no service fees, and much more. Monthly service plans are as low as $20.25 per month, and total annual services are valued at over $1,500. Call Pipe Wrench at 865-264-8090 or book online at pipewrench.com to sign up or schedule your appointment today. And as always, same-day service guaranteed or the visit is free.
Life never stops moving, and between the 30-minute commutes, daycare pickups, weekly soccer practice, Tuesday night yoga, X number of coffee runs, and that weekend trip to Grandma's, you're racking up the miles. What you need is a tire that can keep up, a tire designed for doers, a tire that's going to last, like the exceptionally long-lasting Michelin Defender tire. With an 80,000-mile warranty and the safety and comfort you expect, you can forget all about the miles ahead and focus on getting to your destination or conquering your to-do list. Fleet Tire, I-275 exit 1B at East Woodland Avenue in Knoxville. That's Fleet Tire, I-275 exit 1B at East Woodland Avenue in Knoxville. Fleet Tire. Basilio here for Budget Transmissions. TGMD, the great Matt Dixon, took his Ford Escape to budget, and like our Gold Bullet back in the day, it was a total mess. And now, Matt's back in the game. He's got a new transmission, axle, wheel bearing, both radiator hoses, engine mounts, coolant hoses. I mean, his Ford Escape was about to escape to the junkyard, but he didn't begrudge it. He took it to budget, and now he's on his way back to Omaha. Budget Transmissions, over 30 years in business, conveniently located in Bearden. All extended service contracts are honored. A gold certified Repair Pal member. 865-584-4391. 865-584-4391. Budget Transmissions. Don't begrudge it. Take it to budget.
Hi there, Basilio crew. Jennifer Morris here with Keller Williams Realty. If you're thinking about selling your home, I've got good news for you. The East Tennessee and Knoxville areas are projected to have another strong year. I'll be happy to talk with you about the latest and greatest info you need. So give me a call at 865-694-5904 or contact me at nextmovesmokymountains.com. Hope to hear from you soon, and go Vols.
Tony B here with the great Zakai Ziegler. For
Hey, whoa. Tony, I got this. Hey, Tennessee, it's Easy here. Next time you have an electric issue at your home or business, call my friends at Advent Electric. With offices in Knoxville and Nashville, it's Mama's Easy approved.
You heard it from the most electrifying player in the league. Call the service professionals at Advent Electric, 865-588-0631. Online, adventelectric.com. Tell them ZZ sent you. TB back with you, 865-200-5402. We were laughing at our last guest. One of the things that Connor O'Neill added, because he's sick of looking at it. With the Wake Forest, all that stuff that they do. He goes, my favorite thing is that the ERAs look pretty good on their staff because a lot of their pitchers commit a lot of error. And I'm sitting there going, what in the world? What in the world, man? This is a crazy sport. It is, was, and always will be a crazy sport. And this thing has the makings of a really, really crazy regional. And Matt C called me last night, and then we'll go to the phones. And he says, because he's trying to, gamble on something. And because he doesn't know anything about college baseball. He doesn't follow it. He loves Major League Baseball. He'll watch college baseball like a lot of people at this time of the year. And he wants to get a little action and have some fun. And he was over on VIP Play looking at some of the numbers last night, Matt. And he says, could you explain to me why Tennessee and Arkansas have two of the highest odds to win the national championship? And yet they're playing each other. He said that never happens in college baseball, or basketball, that you face somebody in the Sweet 16. And how do you respond to that, Matt? How do you even respond to the fact that Tennessee's got the fourth highest odds, Matt, to win it all? I mean, does that seem like value to you?
Well, it doesn't seem like good value, but they've been that way really all year. Because some of their metrics and things are just really good. And I think this is probably where college baseball betting there's a little bit of a loophole. A lot of the numbers and metrics that they use for those numbers are like, they don't really account for defense very much because that's not a big deal in the pro game. So like they're just models don't value defense. So a team like Tennessee that's, average at the very best defensively, like none of that shows up in some of those metrics because Tennessee's pitching numbers are really good and the hitting numbers are really good, and they don't really account for that. So, but no, I don't know. I thought that was weird too, that Tennessee and Arkansas, even though they're paired in a super and you're guaranteed that at least one of the two is not getting the Omaha would still be some of the favorites. I thought that was kind of odd as well, but I think that's why that is.
And
it's a lot of like defensive independent pitching numbers are what these sites use.
It's pretty interesting. So there are some.
I think that's right. I don't know for sure. I think that's right, but I kind of question why C would be asking you for gambling advice.
No. He wanted to ask me for advice. I said we ought to do a segment in the third hour where you ask Matt, because he was wondering, could you make up maybe a list of a few long shots that could be live to get to Omaha. Maybe we could sprinkle that in on our Thursday show. Because, people want to have a little throw a dollar down or two on this thing while you're watching the tournament and kind of have some fun with it. So I'm going to give Matt that assignment, see if he answers the bell. But I'm going to give you an assignment, and then we'll go to the phones. Go to VIP Play and claim your welcome bonus. You bet $5 or more, you get $100 in bonus bets instantly. And you want to use the promo code TNTony when you do it. We get full attribution, and they continue to love me. So thank you for doing that. Also, they've got some changes coming. They just launched here in the state of Tennessee, but they're listening to you. New and more convenient deposit and withdrawal methods are coming soon. And they're also going to do some other things as they update their app. Also, they've got a VIP Players Club sweepstakes. Every bet you make, you get entries into the Players Club. You earn one entry per bet, one entry for every dollar you bet. 10 times the entries on parlays if you're a parlay player. And that contest will run through the end of June. Also, 25% Major League Parlay profit boost, 3 picks or more on Major League Baseball games. NBA playoffs, no danger wager. 50% of your stake back in bonus bet if the wager loses. 20% on the NCAA tournament, a profit boost of bets with 3 picks or more, and remember, they're live always, 200 leagues around the world. 200 leagues to bet on. You talk about taking it to the next level. VIP play, and if you have a gambling problem, 800-889-9789, 21 and over in our state, in the state of Tennessee, to place a bet. Let's go back to our phones. On a day where Brian and Matt are both coming correct, and we're excited about this thing. This is fun. Hello and welcome in. You're on the air.
Hey, guys. It's Drew. How's everyone doing?
Hey, Drew. Good to talk to you.
Hey, it's been a really weird year, and I'm going to do kind of one of those hang up and listen to your thoughts kind of questions because I'm curious about all of your all's input on this, given how well you've gotten to know Tony and the program over the last several years. What lessons do you think, regardless of how this season turns out, Tony and the staff will take from this season, and what changes do you think they'll make to kind of make Tennessee baseball come correct moving forward? And I say that knowing that national champions typically have kind of, just like we've said, it's a crazy sport, have strange years after winning. You look what happened to A&M, wheels completely fell off for them. But I'm just kind of curious, how do you think Tony, because this isn't something that he'll answer on air, how do you think that he will address the things that need to be addressed, and what changes do you think you'll see moving forward with this team, be it from a culture or on the field standpoint? Thanks.
Thank you. Matt, you go first. I will say, before Matt answers, one of my favorite things about Tony is that I could ask him that question next time he's on here when the season's over, and he'll answer it. And he's not afraid to say, hey, I learned a lesson here, I learned a lesson there, we learned a lesson over here. And I love that about him. I think it's one of his best attributes. He does not and never has pretended like he has all the answers. That's my role. That's why, Matt, I'm going to get all over him over this. We're getting ready to talk about something here that's going to run all over me. Although maybe he's doing the right thing. I told the Throaty that I wouldn't change my pitching staff, but then again, I didn't know about Cincinnati because I think they're going to win on Friday. Matt, what would you do? What do you think? Give me a couple lessons, if any, come to mind that you think Tony sort of filed away for safekeeping that they're going to try and work on through this season for next year.
Yeah. Well, it's a really good question by Drew, and it's something I've actually kind of thought about. Because I think there's a balance here, because as quote unquote down of a year that this has been, they're still hosting a regional at home, and they're still the last 5 years they've been the best program in the sport. So there's not a ton you really have to change as it relates to the overall program, as much as maybe the problems were just with this specific team. But I think the biggest one they have to address is the holding runners on base deal and giving up so many free bases to guys. I mean, really, when Marcus Phillips has pitched this year, any single or walk is basically turned into a double or triple. And you can't live that way. Like, the margins in this league are just so small that you just can't continue to do that, every time out. And it's not just Phillips. He's kind of been the most egregious at it, but just this philosophy of we're just going to give up free bases whenever guys get on. I think that's got to be addressed in some way. And other than that, I think maybe they kind of got caught in a year where they don't have those, we call them dudes. But I don't know how you necessarily, fix that. I just think you got to recruit the right guys. And I just think you can't rely on transfers to be your team leaders and be those guys that run your locker room like it feels like this team needed, because like a Hunter Inslee just isn't that. He's not that vocal guy that's going to, take over a locker room and command other guys to play with that edge, even though he does play with it himself. But no, it's a really, really interesting question that is something I've kind of thought about, because there's a lot of little things that go into it. It's a really, really good thought.
Tony is constantly reevaluating, though, and he'll openly and honestly answer that question once we get past the season, hopefully after a long run here. Hey, Bryce, share with me Vitello's quotes, because many people, including Throaty, I think Matt's in this camp, would like to see Tennessee pitch off their ace on Friday and throw Phillips. I think to some it was a foregone conclusion they were going to do that. They might. It sounds like they might run the risk of putting Phillips out there against Cincinnati, because I think Cincinnati's going to beat Wake Forest, or against Wake. Now, if they go against Wake, it's not a big deal. They don't run the bases. They're watching that game on Friday, and they see that Cincinnati beats Wake Forest. And Matt, if they pitched Doyle Friday night, that would be borderline insane, wouldn't it? But read to me Tony's quote. Let's see what we can glean from this. Then we'll go back to the phones.
This is from the article written by Ryan Shumpert at Rocky Top Insider. And he said more than likely about keeping the same pitching order this weekend. We have got some bullpens today, so we will see how those go and then have conversations. That has kind of been the order that held true through the season until we had schedule quirks with the Thursday series and the tournament. Regardless of how we do it, we are not looking to out-strategize anybody this time of year. Just out-compete people or compete to the best of our abilities, and hopefully that gets us where we want. He goes on to say, you have to think about the one game in front of you. What inning is in front of you? In the tournament format, you can't get blinded by the fact there is a tomorrow and things like that. That has maybe benefited us too, like in last year's final series that we played.
Matt, he is saying that to the media, right?
That was his quote from the article.
He's just saying it to the media, right, Matt? He doesn't mean that, right?
Well, he tells you what he thinks. He's pretty honest and open. So that's interesting. He did kind of still leave a little bit of wiggle room there.
He did.
But he did preface it by, because they had started Phillips, first the last couple of weekends. But he said that was more the scheduling quirks, which, it's interesting. I would have thought they'd pitch Phillips, but it also shows you the respect they have for Miami, and they have a true ace.
Hold your thought. Hold your thought. To the radio listener, I love you. The conversation continues at tclub.team. Appreciate you. And TLD Logistics Overdrive Overtime will continue. We'll take some calls.
WJBE 1040 AM, 99.7 FM. Translator W259AB. Powell, Knoxville.
Hey, Matt, this guy's kidding, right? Now, if you're watching that game, Matt, and you see Cincinnati win that game and they're out there bunting and running.
It's TLD Logistics Overdrive Overtime, presented by TLD Logistics. Online at tldlogistics.com.
Hey, Matt, we're not going to do that, are we? If we see Cincinnati win? Change it up.
Let's go to the guys with today's edition of TLD Logistics Overdrive Overtime.
Go ahead, Matt. I'm sorry.
You even got me doing it, interrupting her.
It's fun. It's fun. Kristen doesn't mind. She never gets mad.
That's where you kind of overthink it if you're changing who you're starting in a game based on who wins the game. Like I prefer not to do that.
Okay.
Like I don't think you can do that, especially with college kids. So I'd prefer. I mean, whatever their plan is, they should stick with it. But I just think it's interesting that you would go with Doyle. A lot of programs do that. I mean, I think Vanderbilt does that. They never pitch off in the postseason. They'll start J.D. Thompson against the 4 seed. Like that's what they do. So there is some, you can overthink it at times, and Tennessee's obviously not going to do that. So. I mean, either way, you're going to have a potential first-round pick, pitching your second game because, Phillips is probably a top 50, pick right now, maybe top 75 for sure. So it's not like there's a huge drop-off. And let's be honest, Doyle's not been great the last 2 outings.
No, he is not. No, he is not.
Phillips has kind of been your better pitcher the last 2 weekends.
Really strange. That's so indicative of the season, because just when you think you've got these guys figured out, or a beat on them, that's what happens. What Matt just said. Now all of a sudden I got a starter that's kind of not been himself. And this is a guy projected to go like 2 in the draft on some mocks. It's an interesting sport. And this is going to be a crazy ass tournament. Like crazy. Here's a stupid question for you, Matt. How many 3 seeds win this weekend out of the 16 sites? How many 3s get out?
I think at least 2.
Yeah, I think that's right. 2 or 3.
I think if you count 3 and 4 seeds, I'd put that number at 2.5 would be my
10.
My
3
VIP
seeds
play.
are Power 5 or Power 4 conferences teams.
Yeah, I believe that, Brian.
Kansas State, Arizona State, Oklahoma State, Cincinnati, Kentucky, Miami, Mississippi State, USC, Nebraska, Arizona.
Did you count the Rhode Island Rams, Brian, in that?
Rhodey.
I did not count Rhode Island, but you got Rhode Island.
There are 3 at LSU. Who does LSU, Matt, have naked pictures on that they can get that draw?
They have the best draw of any host.
Of ever.
And then they get the Clemson regional winner to get to the Omaha.
Of ever.
Now now Clemson would be tough, but Clemson for whatever reason is like really snake bit in the postseason.
Clemson needs to get
them home.
Besides Tennessee and Arkansas, LSU and Clemson would be the most fun super to be at.
That would be totally illiterate. Back to the phones we go. Hello and welcome in. You're on the air.
How are my friends compatriots doing today?
Hey, Len, how we doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. The fact that Doyle has not been great the last few weeks is because of all this rain nonsense and scheduling disruptions and quirks. I would pitch him Friday because that's when he's at his best, a normal Friday, Saturday, Sunday deal. And I think you got to remember for Saturday, I considered a Phillips-A.J. Russell combination. A.J. Russell throwing over 80 pitches in the SEC tournament was the greatest thing that happened besides us beating Texas and Alabama. A.J., I think, is back, and I think you got to consider him as almost a Phillips-A.J. Russell combination on Saturday.
Or maybe you save Phillips for the third game on Sunday. If you're trying to clinch the region.
Hey, Phillips for no. It's a good point about Russell, and they've kind of comboed those two the last few weeks, and it's been very successful. So Phillips, and then Arvidsson, who was dominant the late innings against Texas, which I'm sure you appreciate, WLN. That was a welcome sight too. That gives you 2 potential bullpen who can go even 4 or 5 innings, and that's a really big deal in these, especially if you have to come out of a loser's bracket.
And think if Phillips has a great outing and goes long in the game, you got A.J. Russell and Arvidsson maybe for Sunday. So I would just do Doyle on Friday. I just think that's his normal routine, and that's when he's pitched his best. And I don't care who we're playing. I mean, Phillips did a lot better holding runners the last time or 2 he pitched after he kind of got lambasted about it. Don't y'all agree?
Well, listen, I think at this point we have to trust Tony, right? Don't we?
When Phillips is on and striking out folks and throwing high gas, nobody gets on base, it's not a problem.
Yeah, he's a light. You're exactly right, Brian.
And if we get that version of Phillips, it might not matter who they face.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you're playing, like, just projecting, because I think Cincinnati's going to win Friday. If you play Cincinnati and you throw Phillips, just thinking out loud here, he's an excellent fielder in terms of getting off the mound. He's one hell of an athlete, man. The way he moves out there probably would help you in that regard.
Yeah, so I'm with Tony, and I don't know if he's smoking mirrors or what, but I just start Doyle because I think it's our rhythm when we're at our best. And please keep the weather delays and nonsense away this weekend.
Have you guys seen 80% chance of rain on Friday? I mean, what are we doing here, man?
Maybe that'll be at noon or something.
We got to listen to Vitello's source at the National Weather Service.
I did see Saturday look good on one app I looked at. So
it looks great.
Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday would look good.
Tony knows. That's my bumper sticker. The weather, Tony knows. What to do with the pitching, Tony knows.
Whatever Hal Todd says, or whatever the
Hot
towel on Spaces.
No, Hot Towel.
A loyal listener.
Hot Towel.
Yeah.
Hot Towel.
He gets the final say.
And by
he's the man I go to, Todd.
Well, W. Lynn, did you watch Todd Howe and that woman that he's on there with, Cassie, I guess her name? They sit there and fight like a married couple when they're on the air.
I know.
And they sit there and snipe at each other. And it's pretty comical, man.
Over what to put on the green screen.
Oh, it's whatever. It's
the
whole time. He's like, I'm going to go over here to if you could do this. And she's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You go do
we've
that.
We've got a new system here. We're trying to work out a few things, that say something like that.
I love Todd and her are so fun. Thank you, W.
Cassie Knoll, a major upgrade over Ella Dorsey. Major upgrade.
Cassie Knoll is hilarious. So fun. They are so fun. Matt, when those major storms come, and God, we all hate them because they're getting more and more violent, and more scary. But the other night, we're watching them, and they're just kind of like, and they're trying so hard to be nice to each other, but they're both like, they both just love the weather so much. The pH in their blood is changing during these storms. That's what happens with these people. They wait all year for this. They wait all year for it. Let's go back to the phones. I mean, it's a huge playoff game to them. Let's put it that way. Hello and welcome into our next call.
I'm just glad Todd doesn't wear a baseball helmet like Jim Cantori does when he goes out there to be the fake, survivor man.
On your TLD Logistics Overdrive Overtime, welcome in. You're on the air.
Todd Howell is the bipolar opposite of that clown Cantori. You never catch that guy. He's genuine and authentic, unlike that weather clown, Matt, so we don't have to worry about that. Hey, gents, it's Taylor. I'll tell you one thing. After spending that week in Hoover, I saw a lot of elite shortstops, elite third baseman, elite second baseman make very common routine errors, and that just reiterated in my mind. That's just part of the college game. Yep. That's what makes it great. But man, I saw a lot of studs not field the ball. So
the kid from Alabama. Booted two, Taylor. Booted two.
2 errors in one game.
And he's incredible. That guy is an incredible baseball player. 2 in a row. That's like a 90% foul shooter going up there and missing 2 foul shots in a row is what that kid did in that game for us.
I would say it'd be like missing 3 foul shots in a row in a 3-point attempt.
Strange
game. But, Tony, the one caller asked what Vitello would like to do better for next season. And I would say certainly improve the infield defense. That's got to happen. We can't be next to last in fielding percentage. We've got to improve that. Simo would have been the best middle infielder or the best non-first baseman infielder on this team. And I love Simo, one of the absolute greatest to ever play at college baseball. But his forte wasn't his defense, but he would be stellar on this year's team. So he's got to improve infield defense. And here's my other thing. That 20-0 start was fool's gold. And hear me out. I'm curious particularly what Matt thinks about this hypothesis. So we know that our non-conference schedule has historically been rather light, right? Well, I would argue this year's non-conference schedule, through no fault of our own, has been lighter than ever. And that's because all the mid-majors have been picked clean. The Sonny DeSheras are no longer at Sanford, right? They've been picked clean, and the studs, it wasn't uncommon for a mid-major to have one stud, maybe even two studs. Now I'd argue they have zero studs or half a stud. So those non-conference teams, through attrition, through the portal, got weaker overnight. And I submit to you that he needs to improve his non-conference schedule. What I would do is I'd have a weekend series against Georgia Tech. I'd have a weekend series against Virginia Tech. And there's some others you could certainly do that with. But improve that non-conference schedule so you understand where your warts are. You understand where your weaknesses are before you get into SEC play, because you need to address it. And we don't really have a good litmus test against the 25 non-conference schedule.
I think last year they brought in Illinois. Did they not, Matt, for a 3-game series for the Big Ten? Now, I think a couple of those games might have gotten one-sided and away from them, but one of the games might have been competitive. And I don't think they did bring in a Power 5 conference team this year that's comparable to like what he's talking about.
Yeah, this was probably the worst non-conference schedule. Because I think even last year they brought Bowling Green in and they won the MAC regular season title. And they were a pretty good mid-major, and Tennessee kind of blew them out too. So it's a good point. It's one of those things that I'd love to hear Vitello's opinion on, because you bring up some really good points, Taylor. Because you don't get exposed at all. But the flip side to that is you play your bench really a lot in those games, and you give a lot of guys at bats and innings who otherwise wouldn't get them. And in previous years, that's wound up paying off down the road. Whereas this year, they've kind of shrunk their rotation, or they've shrunk the guys that they play here down the stretch. So it's one of those where, is it a multi-year deal, or was it just tied to this year where it's an issue? So it's a good thought, and I'd love to hear Vitello's opinion on it after the season, because it's you could certainly make the case that they're just not challenged enough in the non-league. I think that's very fair, because their non-conference strength schedules always in the 200s.
Yeah, and then that bench development, Matt, that you speak about, which I agree is vitally important, it's lessened with the Tennessee rule, right? With the new mercy rule, now you're playing 7 innings when you play these patsies versus 9 innings, and that means less at bats for your bench, and certainly less innings to see what you have. That's going to be more important next year when they go to the 34-person roster. And people talk about this. I mean, I think our roster, Tennessee's roster, is like 52 last I counted. Wow. 40 active, but then the rest redshirt. But D1 did a great analysis of roster composition, and they basically said, all told, any material, meaningful innings pitched or meaningful at bats, any material at bats, I forget their formula, it doesn't matter, but they basically said any given team is only playing up anywhere between 24 and 27 players. That's position players, that's DH, that's pitchers. So the reality is the change next year is going to mean you just can't stockpile talent. You're still going to play probably who you're going to play, but you better find out a lot quicker where your weaknesses are, and you're just not going to find it with the mid-majors of 25 with the portal, because their studs are gone.
Hey, T, does that make the mid-majors better next year? If you go to that 34 thing, and these guys can't hide those players, they have to go somewhere, right?
I think it will. I'm hoping that's what happens, because the mid-majors have just been picked over.
Agreed.
And you can't have 50-man rosters, 52-man rosters.
Yeah.
And in the fall, here's the other thing. In the fall, I think it's you got to have it to 38. So you can't, by December 1st, that roster's got to be down to 38. So you're going to have plenty of time before the next semester starts for these folks to figure out where they're going to migrate to. So great point. I think the mid-majors will be improved with the roster restrictions, particularly what's really underrated is that 38-man fall roster, because I can promise you Arkansas, LSU, all the big boys have 50-plus on their fall rosters, and they figure it out in February, and then those guys are stuck, right?
Hey, Matt, remind me to ask Dizzy Payton, who's going to be on with us Thursday, Matt, about that. Would you make a note of that, Matt? That's a great talking point, because
it's really fascinating.
Here's the thing I wonder, Matt. I wonder if those guys will send people to scout Tennessee baseball games, Vanderbilt fall ball games. I wonder.
The scrimmages.
Yeah.
I would if you have the resources to. A lot of programs like that probably can't do that.
You know, T.
But if you can, yeah.
Or if you work out like a reciprocal agreement with certain schools, where hey, we're going to take 4 or 5 guys and park them there. That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. And we'll play a weekend series in early March.
Yeah.
And we'll have a gentleman's agreement behind it. Yeah.
You watch my kids.
I think that stuff goes on. Yeah.
It'll be similar to how we place them in college, right? When they play in the summer league,
yes.
We have some friendlies where we place them. It'll be the same type of concept. Hey, we'll scratch your back, you scratch ours. Here's their development needs. Can you please focus on X, Y, and Z? We're going to take care of you. We'll whatever we need to do. We'll schedule you for a weekend series, you name it. But that's what's going to happen. We'll have some friendly places. We'll park them, and the thought process is they'll develop some certain areas that we've identified, and then we'll get them back in a year or two.
You know, it was
funny.
Guys,
on the way out.
Yeah, one final thing
ahead.
for you on that. You'll laugh at this. So when this whole thing first happened, I called Tony, and I'm like, that's pretty cool, man. He goes, what is? I said, well, you're going to be able to give 34 kids scholarship. He goes, what? He goes, here I miss the forest for the trees. And he is literally like, what's wrong with you, Basilio? I mean, what's wrong with you? What are you talking about? What do you mean it's good? And he ripped the hell out of me.
Well, listen, if he hears you talk more about this weather on Friday and it being Tuesday, he's really going to rip you a new one. His weather, he can't predict the weather an hour. Well, actually 30 minutes if you go to Auburn. He's going to be mad at you for trying to do a 4-day prediction, my friend.
It looked like Noah's Ark was coming. It looked like Noah's Ark was coming, and Tony saw an opening. Tony saw.
It was Boomsday. It was Boomsday over Lindsey Nelson.
Taylor, were you there that Friday night for Auburn? Were you in the stadium?
Come on, Matt. You think I would miss that? I never left. Yeah, of course I was there. It was Boomsday. I've never seen lightning right above the stadium, and they play baseball in my life.
Oh, my God.
The scouts there couldn't believe it. The scouts' mouths were wide open. They're like, what are we doing here? But it's beautiful. Hey, guys, seriously, phenomenal coverage, Matt, Brian. You guys bring it to the next level, and it's much appreciated. Can't wait for the regional. We are blessed to host. Quit talking about bad weather 4 days ahead of time. Nobody knows what it's going to be tomorrow. We're going to have great weather. It's going to be a hornet's nest. It's going to be next level. Heflin is going to be horse. GBO, you guys keep up the great work.
Heflin's a sheep. Whew. Hey, Matt, when my source over there told me that Tony told everybody, yeah, I got to. That's how you get Tennessee's program to where it is, though, Matt. Being a total effing hardhead. That's the only thing you can say about it. Psycho hardhead. We're playing baseball tonight. I've decided, damn it, that we're playing baseball. And you know what? You think about that. I got time for that. We were all kind of pissed in the moment. I thought it was crazy, but you look back on it and you say, how do you get this school? Because the guest we had earlier was talking about how 1,000 people will go to a Cincinnati game. There was a time, Matt, where that would have been considered a great crowd here for
that would have been a great crowd here. Yes, absolutely.
I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm not. It was not that long ago.
No, Tennessee was at the bottom of the SEC. They were literally not making Hoover more years than they were. The decade before Vitello got here, like they were at the bottom of the league, and now they're at the top of the sport, a sport that's grown exponentially over the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
it's one of the more insane coaching jobs that I've ever seen, and you could argue it's kind of still just getting started.
And again, when you look at John Curry hiring Tony Vitello, if he isn't the best hire in the men's sports in the modern era, who is it? The guy won a national championship within 10 years.
He went from thinking, how are we going to fill this stadium, to actually having to expand it. Exactly. One day I'm going to fill the stadium, and then we're going to expand it.
Now they can't finish renovations quick enough. Yeah, it's one of the more remarkable turnarounds that you'll ever see.
Well, it's such a turnaround, Matt, that we're disappointed, okay? Which is one of Tony's things he's right about. We're like disappointed by the season. That kind of runs all over Tony. Because it's hard as hell to make that tournament out of this league. And it's hard to get a host spot. Just one of the 16 host spots, let alone
13 out of 16 teams did it, but it's hard to be at the top of a league where 13 out of 16 teams make the tournament.
Yes, to be towards the middle top. I mean, even in a kind of a down year this year, Tennessee's still like right in the middle of that thing. And they got like the 5th best odds. I wouldn't bet on them, Matt. I wouldn't bet $1 on them, but hey, you're doing something right. It's
all you got to do is get in the tournament. If you're in the SEC, if you make the tournament, you're good enough to go to Omaha.
The O'Neill guy was telling me off the air. He said, the one thing I wish could change about the sport, he said, last few years, is it's fun to see Cinderellas make Omaha. He said with these two leagues, and he was really talking about the SEC, he said, but with the power leagues now dominating the sport, which goes back to what Taylor's talking about, it doesn't open the door for, the Tennessee Techs of the world to make runs. It's a lot harder now for those people. If it's not impossible. Didn't they get to a super regional, Matt, several years ago?
Yeah, they won the Oxford Regional and went to Texas and actually won game 1
That's right.
of a super, and were winning game 2 and then lost, wound up losing both of them. But Oral Roberts made Omaha a few years ago. I guess it's 23 when Tennessee was there.
Yep.
Stony Brook went. I mean, this was back in the early 2000s.
They beat LSU,
They
didn't
beat
they?
LSU. They beat LSU to get there.
Matt, that's neat. Wow.
Fresno State and Coastal won national titles as they were 4 seeds in regionals.
That's
and
neat.
I don't think that's possible anymore. I mean, maybe it is like that Evansville team last year had a bunch of 5th and 6th year guys that they had put together, but that would be kind of a real exception now, which is kind of a shame. But I do think it is wide open this year that there might be 1 or 2 of those that sneak through. I definitely think there'll be a few that win regionals, but I don't know if they can get to Omaha.
Really, really fun show today, guys. The spirit of this, I love. And as I wrote in the blog today, I'm embracing every minute of this week and really enjoying it. Because here's what we would be talking about if we weren't doing this. The fact that the SEC is being heavy-handed on the Vols, and this thing's going to end up in litigation, and now the player's going to end up, and who's going to get paid. And I would listen, I got into this because I love sports. And that stuff, though it's compelling, it's not sports. It's not what pitch are you going to throw Friday. It's not, hey, I remember this play or that play or Wright State on a Friday night or whatever. It's not, is Arkansas going to be able to hold up their end of the bargain if we get there with them? Like, Matt, I'm of the belief that that's not a bad draw. And Heflin yesterday blanched at that. He goes, you have no idea how hard it is to play there. And I'm like, okay, fine. If it's so hard, how come they can't get out of their own regional since COVID? The only time they went to Omaha, if it's so hard, was when they went on the road and they won. Where were they? In North Carolina, Matt?
Oklahoma State for the regional, and then North Carolina for the super. Yeah.
Okay. So at some point, you want to put them in that spot, and then you want Burns to go back to the scene of the crime where he shoved, and let's have some fun. I think that could be really compelling if we could get there. I don't know if we can get there. I don't know about this team. Which I think is a fair thing to say, Matt. I don't trust us. That's a fair thing to say, right? After watching us all these games this year,
how could you?
Yeah, I don't know who we are. We're very capable,
they won 2 games in a weekend for the first time in Hoover, and the first time in like a month and a half.
Very capable, but also very capable of imploding. So, any other final thoughts, Matt? Your report is tomorrow.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun. I'm excited for a really compelling weekend here at Lindsey Nelson. And based on your comments this week, you've put the kiss of death on Ewad's Bearcats for Friday.
Hey, Matt, you're Brian Hartman. I want a thought because I need to play tonight in the Knicks series. Do the Knicks have another trick up their sleeve? Do they have a wild card up their sleeve?
Well, all they have to do is get behind by 20 points, and they got them right where they want them.
When love deals you a lemon, you got to mix one in my drink. What, that song's in E flat. Do 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 do. What song is that? Do 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 do. What song is that, Brian? Come on,
Brian. Give me the over on whatever Allen Houston's total is tonight. I'll take the over.
God.
By the way, Tony Vitello since 2021 is 12-0 in regionals, 9-0 in Lindsey Nelson. Just a number to think about.
Tennessee's 18-1 at home in regionals in this current format.
Shit.
He's 14-2 in regionals overall.
Ironically, the one loss was to Wake Forest in 2001, but that was one of the weird deals. Wake Forest was actually the 1 seed in the Knoxville Regional. Because back then, they announced the regional host before the SEC tournament.
Right. You had to bid on them. You had to bid on them. You remember that,
you
Matt?
had to bid, and Wake Forest didn't bid.
You bought them.
And Tennessee did.
Yeah, you bought them back then. Yep.
So Chris Burke was on the last team that lost the regional in Lindsey Nelson.
Of course he was.
Of course.
Love you, Dixon. Thank you. Berkey, love you too. Brian Hartman carried the day today. What can we say? Thanks to my friends at TLD Logistics for allowing us to have the Vine today on your TLD Logistics Overdrive. Overtime. My name is Basilio, the Bald Lover. Have yourself a Dwight Gooden. And I want to thank TLD Logistics for all your shipping needs. They're online at tldlogistics.com. They're always hiring as well. If you want to reach out to them and see what we're talking about. In the meantime, I love you. I appreciate you. G to the B to the O. And hurry back, be no. Great job, Matt. Great job, Brian. Great job to all our guests today. Check us out at tclub.team. Like and subscribe over at YouTube. Peace. All right, let me run this back. I went upstairs, Taylor, during your call and made my pizzas. I'm flying solo in here, so I went and made myself some lunch while the show was on. How's that for being a trusting soul?
Translator W259AB. Powell, Knoxville.
Coming correct for you on a Tuesday as we welcome you in. Brian Hartman, do I see rain in the forecast for Friday? I mean, is that kind of like, I don't know, apropos, bruh?
Well, that's one other reason why some folks wanted to play on the road is because it just has to rain every week.
Every week.
It just doesn't stop every weekend.
Every week.
And it's cloudy right now, and it's been off and on rain for about, I don't know, the past month.
So C called me yesterday, okay? I'm sitting in the park kind of playing some music, just sort of relaxing out there with Laura. And C's not real familiar with college baseball. You know, he loves his football. He loves his basketball. But he was really confused. He said, why in the NCAA tournament baseball? And I want to get Dixon in here because Brian wrote a great column today over at tclub.team, the outset of this thing. But this event is truly anybody's, and it's really confusing. He said, why would they take, at one point, the two odds-on favorites to win the national championship, Bri, and put them together in the same region so that only one of them would get to the Elite Eight? And, you know, it's an interesting point because Matt was talking yesterday about how the way they seed these teams is so different than the basketball deal. And there's geographical constraints. There's league considerations. There's all these other things. It's really a weird sport, Brian, when you think about it, isn't it?
I think those numbers and those odds came out after the bracket was unveiled.
Well, I'm looking at like VIP play, okay, and I'm looking at the odds to win the Natty. Not to be confused with the Natty that are coming in here, but the Natty. The real Natty, not the EWOD Natty, where they put chili on their sketty. But the Natty. Arkansas is plus 400. LSU is plus 500. Vanderbilt's plus 700. Georgia's plus